Something Hello and welcome everyone back to another round of the Virtual Drift Championship. This is round 3. We're back at Silverstone, the old Silverstone from 2005 with a brand new layout. And back with me is Tanner. What's up, Tanner?
What's happening, Craig? Great to be back. I'm so sorry to everybody for missing round 2, but I had some racing of my own to do. But hey, we're here now for round 3 at a wonderful, wonderful track layout here at Silverstone.
Yeah, a small little stadium-like track that we have here in front of us, and we're going to roll directly into today's line map. Start of the track there at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and then initiating into clip 1, your first outside zone, and then down into clip 2 with quite the decel there. But again, we want to see those lead drivers especially making that decel super smooth through that area. That is why the area is quite large rather than being small. And then back on throttle into zone 2, clip 2, big outside zone with a wall there, and you'll leave it and take a left up the course into clip 3, your next outside zone, then clip 4 at the top of the hill and around your inside clip there at clip 5, and back down the hill you go for clip 6, your next outside. And we've got another inside reference point there that we want to see those lead drivers get around, get a bumper around it really, and then down into clip 7, your next outside zone, and then finishing on the wall once more. You're going to run it for a second time, and as soon as that zone is over, so basically the start of clip 2 then is the end of clip 8, and that's where the run will finish. So exciting little course, slowing down from the past 2 previous tracks that we've thrown at them, and a little technicality here and there, but I think it's going to be exciting. We see how dialed in those skid marks are right now just from their small little practice right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Like watching these guys throw practice yesterday, it was just, the consistency was insane. I mean, I'm sure we're going to be looking at another probably 90 plus qualifying score to even think about getting into the top 32. So it's going to be a wonderful qualifying.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And look at there, our first driver of qualifying here for round 3 is going to be Zach O'Sullivan, back-to-back champion. Zach O'Sullivan getting a little adjustment in that semaphore in the start light before we send him off for his first run here at round 3. We're off, starting out quickly. Zach initiates in big angle, but he does drop a little bit of tire, making his decel smooth and picking up throttle early for clip 2. Big outside zone as he transitions up the hill now, grabbing that next one. Looking dialed in now. Dropping that tiny little bit of tire in outside 1. Look at him down the hill now, filling the next outside zone. Big transition to the wall all the way there, nice and smooth. Dialed in on that angle and line, and he'll finish out his first run of the day.
Yeah, Zach O'Sullivan there really doing a good job on the first run of the day. Notice in practice he was struggling on that third outer zone, but seemed to have nailed it that time around. Just waiting for one more score to come in. And a 93 to start things out with. Not bad for run number 1. So let's see what Reese Tatterson can throw at the table. Run number 1 in that beautiful RTR Mustang. Waiting for the lights to go. Sitting patiently, the most nerve-wracking part. Sitting there at the line, waiting for that light to turn on. Now you go. First run of qualifying. Down straight, flicks it in. Nice initiation. Looking good so far as he has the lead up to the wall. Gets it slowed down nicely. Back on throttle. Takes the transition through the next outer zone. just grazing that white line as he comes through the inside clip and all the way out, trying to get as far out as that outer zone as he can before coming back down the hill, making the transition off throttle, back on throttle, gets right up on the wall. Reese Tatterson coming out swinging.
Yeah, nicely done. Looking more and more comfortable in that RTR Mustang is Reese Tatterson. And that's a big score, 94.5 on the board. Nico Stelea coming right behind Zach O'Sullivan and Reese Tatterson. 3 heavy hitters here, back to back to back. Nico initiates in, nicely done, filling outside zone 1 all the way out to that track edge and all the way out to the wall. Settled in nicely all the way through it. He transitions up that hill now, small little bump there before getting into outside zone 3, 4, filling it nicely as well. Working his way down the hill, getting him well around that inside reference point just there to hold those drivers accountable, and all the way up to the wall once more, last and final outside zone, and finishing out his first qualifying run.
Nico looking solid as well. Group number 1 here. Well, they're putting on the pressure for everybody else, and maybe even for run number 2 as well for themselves. Waiting on that final score, a 92.8 for Nico Stelea. Very good first run indeed. Daniel Andrzejewski now at the line, ready to go for run number 1. So a lot of drivers to get through today, but they're ripping through this course. The light goes on. Daniel sends it off for his first run of qualifying. Initiates in. Nice angle through the first outer zone. Makes the transition. Slows that beamer down. Gets it right on the wall. Heading through that second, third outer zone. Now to make the transition. Through that tight inside clip. Daniel looking good out there so far. A little problem going into that third to last outer zone. But making up for it down the hill. Gets it still down one more time. And right on the wall again. Daniel coming in swinging.
My goodness gracious. Group 1. It's another 90 plus on the board. And it is 91. Daniel now in 4th. Just behind Nico's 92.8. Here's Russell Jones returning back in his Supra. Initiating in nicely. Good decel there. Jumping out of the zone just a little bit. Has to get it settled in. He's all the way up there against that wall and transitioning up the hill, filling that outside zone. Nice and smooth on his transition there. And decel picking up throttle. Kind of drawing out of the angle a little bit. He's going to have to add some there. Comes short of that zone, but a good transition across that track for the wall. Leaving the zone just a tiny bit there before crossing that finish line. Strong run for Russell.
Strong run indeed for Russell as we wait for his score to come in. Already down 5 drivers, 10 in this group. It's going by so quick, but the judges taking a little bit of time here on Russell's score. One more judge to come in, and an 86.5 for Russell Jones's first run. It's now sitting at the line, Samuel Cuddy. See where he stacks up against the previous 5. The light goes on and off he goes. Down the straight, initiates in. Nice angle off the initiation down to outer zone 2. Little bobble there as it seemed to wanted to understeer on him as he started doing the wall ride, but then he comes out of it, makes the transition nicely to 3 and 4 through that inside clip, nice and tight. Another adjustment though as he heads out to that outer zone. Now down the hill. Back towards the wall. The front end wants to wash out on him again, but he gets it back in control and holds it nice and steady all the way through. We'll see what kind of score Samuel Cuddy puts on the board.
83.7, not too bad for him. Rampage. Sean Reeves at the line, turning back in his Corvette through the chicane for his first run here for round 3. Filling outside zone 1. A big angle into 2, picking up throttle, staying in that zone all the way out there to that wall, maybe giving it a couple of bumps there. We're transitioning up the hill, filling outside zone 3, now 4. Saw a little tiny bit of dirt there, but it was very close, drawing it a little bit out of angle there. As he works his way down the hill, transitions across all the way out there to that track edge and the wall, continuing on. Great run.
Yeah, Dijon really showing the speed of that Corvette around that course. That ends up with a 90.2 for run number 1. It's not a bad score to sit on there. As already out of the gate, the robot himself, Tikhon Pileski, initiates in, looking great off the initiation. Lots of angle, swings it into the second outer zone, this big wall ride. And not a movement out of the front wheels. Had it locked in as he comes to the third and fourth outer zone. Aims for that inside clip, grazes it beautifully, fills all of the next outer zone. Tikhon on a tear here today. He makes that transition into the final outer zone, cutting that speed, using that decel to his advantage. And what a run by Tikhon.
Yeah, Tikhon going off here for round 3. 95.2 on the board. That puts him in that number 1 position. So we move along to Christian Petrov, leaving the line. Initiating in, big angle there. Before transitioning across for 2 and just a little bit too far on the outside. Gets a piece of the wall and once more there for outside zone 2, but he's going to continue on anyway, filling all of outside zone 3, now 4. Around that inside clip and back down the hill. Big angle correction there coming in to that outside zone 5 and a little shallow there. But he's got another run in store. Clean it up a little bit from Christian Petrov. He'll still get a score on the board though as they come through.
A score indeed, a 68.5 for Christian Petrov. Definitely something he will have to improve in run number 2. The last of the drivers of Group 1, Jordan El Nasser. Initiating in, looking good off the initiation. Transitions to the wall ride, good angle, holding it good so far through that wall ride. Leaves it, makes the transition. Just going off course just a little bit, dropping a tire again. Little bobble as he tried to get it to reach all the way out into that outer zone. Not quite filling them, but putting the car where it needs to be. You know what? For a first run, it's not a bad job there, Jordan. The practice is paying off.
Not bad from Jordan indeed. 81.7 on the board for him as we move right back around to Zach O'Sullivan in run 2. Coming off the 93. And not dropping a tire for outside zone 1 this time, and nicely done. Settling into outside zone 2 along the wall. Transitioning up that hill through the little bump, filling 3 into 4 now. Very smooth from Zach, dialed in on the angle as well as he works his way into outside zone 5. Big transition across. Again, just super smooth from Zach. Dialed in on the angle and that line, finishing out his second run, trying to beat that 93.
Well, you know, I think that's going to beat the 93. And not only does it beat his 93, it beats the 95 that Tikhon set, a 97.2 for Zach O'Sullivan on his second run of qualifying. Watching him go into that final outer zone, I was like, did he even lift? Did he use the decel zone? Insane. But next up, wanting to get higher up on the board, Reese Tatterson sitting on that 94.5. Initiates nicely through the first outer zone, now to the wall ride. Looking good through it, nice and deep and along that wall. Transitions, nice on the track edge. One more towards that inside clip. Carrying a lot of speed as Reese Tatterson, but putting the car almost exactly where it needs to be. Could have filled that second to last outer zone a little more, and a little bobble there on the entrance to the final outer zone, but keeps that foot planted and finishes out the run.
Yeah, ended up a little bit too far on the inside of that big sweeper, and that reference point dipping a wheel almost over it, and yeah, that's definitely going to hurt his score, but he's going to stay right where he's at for now, 94.5. Here's Nico coming off the 92.8. See, it throws that car into this wall here for outside zone 2, working his way around it now. Good smooth transition up the hill. Good decel right around that inside clip, hanging on to that angle, working his way around. Nico locked in here as he transitions all the way up against that wall, hanging the wing over it, and finishing run 2. Is that enough to beat the 92.8?
I hope so. Watching the way he entered into outer zone 1 there, at first I was like, he's not going to get that car slowed down in time, and then he just put it right on the money. And doesn't sadly beat the 92.8, but what a tiebreaker score of a 92.7 for Nico Stelios. Daniel Andrzej sitting on a 91, initiates into outer zone 1, makes the transition into outer zone 2, puts that rear bumper right along that wall. Transitions now up to outer zone 3, right on the white line, looking good so far. Been a tad deeper into outer zone 4, but making up for it through the inside clip as he pushes all the way out to the next 2 outer zones. One last transition, one last wall ride for Daniel Andrzej's qualifying runs. Makes it through nice and clean. Can he beat that 91 already put up on the board?
It's going to be close. Again, locked in for run 2. And it is 95.2 on the board for Daniel Andrzej. Sitting now 3rd position. Russell Jones coming off his 86.5. A couple of hiccups here and there. See if he can clean it up. Nicely done as he settles in for outside zone 2. A lot smoother in that beginning portion of the zone as he works his way up the hill. Now filling 3. Now 4 working his way around that inside clip. Nicely done. Better on the angle and that line. Through that big sweeper and into the last and final outside zone. I stood up in my seat, and there he goes across that finish line.
Wow, Russell getting that dab of foot brake in just before it was too late. Does improve the score just a little bit, 88.8 for the final run for Russell Jones. Now also wanting to improve, sitting on an 83.7. This man here is Samuel Cuddy in the E36. Initiates in, good angle off the initiation, transitions into the second outer zone, and there's that front end just wanting to wash out on him, but he keeps on the throttle and keeps in control of that car as he comes through the next outer zone now into this little hairpin. Another little bobble there coming through the inside clip, pushing all the way out to the outer zone, filling all of it. One last transition for Samuel Cuddy. He's trying to get it slowed down, trying to hold that angle. He makes it work, finishes out the run, but will it be enough to beat that 83.7?
Yeah, it was quite the interesting mistake there coming into that last and final zone, the second wall ride. He really kind of slammed on the brakes there and kind of got held up a little bit before continuing on with that last and final zone. And it's going to be an 81.5, so we'll have to see if that 83.7 will hold up. Deshaun Rampage up for run 2, sitting on that 90.2 as he initiates in, filling outside zone 1, and now 2. Small, teeny, tiny little bobbles in and outside zone 2. Good on 3, all the way out there for that track edge. 4 as well as he works the Corvette around that inside clip and back down the hill. Again, really kind of driving around that inside reference point as he settles in for the last and final wall. Nicely done from Reeves as he crosses that finish line.
John Reeves throwing it out there for that second run. A little bit of a Hail Mary in some spots. A 91.8 to finish out his qualifying run. But he topped qualifying, in the first runs. Can he claim it back in the second? Tikon Pileski initiates in. Tons of angle off of that initiation. A little washout, though, coming into outer zone 2, but he quickly grabs it back in control. Now makes the transition to outer zone 3, right along that white line. Same with outer zone 4. Perfectly grabs that inside clip and fills all of the outer zone. This is looking like a run made to grab that number 1 spot, but could those washouts be the undoing? Econ on a mission, and will it be enough?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I know what he was trying, going for there in the big angle, throwing that car in, but maybe just a little too much as he picked up throttle and pulled out of it. Yeah, and there's the score, 92.7. But great effort from Tikon Pileski as he remains in that number 2 spot with a 95.2. Here's Christian Petrov. He used to better this 68.5 he currently has on the board. Nicely done so far. Absolutely. And outside zone 2, working his way around that wall now. Good smooth transition. And outside zone 3, 4 now as well. Right around that inside clip. This is looking good so far from Christian Petrov. A little bit too far on the inside there of that big sweeper, but he fills the next outside zone and throws it into the last and final one. And there he goes, finishing out run 2.
Almost thought Christian was going to go into the wall there, but that should definitely improve on that 68, and it does. 89.7 on the board for Christian Petrov. I know they normally like to see 90s, but maybe, just maybe, it'll be enough to get into the top 32 here today. Sitting on an 81.7. Jordan L. Nasser going for the final run of Group 1. Sending it into outer zone 2, grabbing the wall just a little bit, but settling into the angle nicely. Now to transition through the next outer zone into outer zone 4. Good job through the inner clip, pushed all the way outside the outside zone, all the way through it. Still cut that second to last outside zone a little early, but settles into the final one. And you know what? The consistency is there now, Jordan. The consistency
I think
is
it was
there.
a little bit better. Yeah, for sure. Trying to better the 81.7. There it is. Look at there. 88.5 on the board. Again, as you said, 90s on 90s on 90s this season so far. So we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be enough. But again, we have our last 16 bracket coming up just after this as well. Where again, the 29 through 44 qualifying drivers will get put into a top 16 or a last 16, and they'll battle it out for those last and final 4 spots in the main event, top 32. The drivers will get a couple practice runs as we load in our next group of qualifying. Dimitri Mitten, Nick Hang, Brett Wolford, Victor Alves, Simon Sandman, Brandon Williams, Victor Lacheras, Stephen Hatcher, Brandon Gardner, and Balrupe Purewall, all up next here in Group 2 after an extremely strong Group 1. Wow. that's going to be the last call from those judges. We have one driver getting moved to Group 5. I believe it's Dimitri Mitten will get moved to Group 5, and Nick Hang will come to the line to start things out for Group 2. Nick Hang in that awesome Sierra. At the line, ready to go. Waiting on the judges to sort the quality sheet now after moving that driver.
You have to admit, I think Nick's car is one of the coolest on the grid this year. We don't call it a Sierra up here in Canada. It got a different name up here. We all know it as the Sierra.
Honestly, yeah, I think one of the coolest of all time through the VDC history and people submitting their own cars and whatnot. We've had a couple, throughout the Amazon.
Yes.
The Amazon was cool. And the box Volvo as well. The big wagon from Warren.
Yes, that's right. I haven't thought of that car in a long time. That thing was huge.
Cairo Burkers. Can't forget Cairo Burkers. Shout out Cairo Burkers. Alright, sounds like we are good to go. Lights are on. And Nick Hang is off for his first run as he throws that car in. Nice big swing and transition into outside zone 2 now. Works his way through. Good smooth transition from Nick here. Nicely done for outside zone 4 as he works his way around that inside clip, filling the next outside zone. A little bit out there, but he's going to come up where he needs to be for that next outside zone. And the last and final one up against that wall. Nicely done from Nick Hang, crossing that finish line.
Well, Nick Hang hanging it all out there for the first run, and a 92.7 to start things out for group number 2. At the line now, Brett Wolford. Maybe a change.
Yeah, they're fixing.
I see the sheet kind of
yeah, they
moving
were
around
clicking all over the place.
Oh no!
Oh my goodness! There we go.
Control Z. The viewers can't see what we're seeing, but what an IT nightmare would look like is what we're viewing right now. Yeah, his score definitely isn't #ref exclamation point.
Looks like it's going to be an M around
there we go.
Like a 90. Yeah, 92.7.
92.7 for Nick Hang. Figured it out, I hope. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we're good. All right. So, Brett Wolford, ready to go for his first run of qualifying in that beautiful Mustang. Initiating in, lots of angle off the initiation. Transitions, gets it slowed down for outer zone 2. Hold a nice angle and speed through outer zone 2, makes the transition for 3. Could have been just a bit deeper into 4. Kind of hit the curve a little bit through that inside clip, but I don't think he touched the inside clip. It pushes all the way out. Outer zone 7, clip 7, now into 8. Looking good. Looking great for Brett Wolford.
Yeah, nice and dialed in from Brett. And there it is, 93.5 on the board. That'll slot him into 5th position, just behind Reese Tatterson. Victor Alves, back in his S15. And nicely done on that initiation. Big angle, but holds that momentum all the way through to the transition into outside zone 2, working his way around that wall. And now up the hill, filling outside zone 3. Big angle from Victor throughout this run so far. As he now works his way down the hill. Can he hold that same angle? Working his way through that big sweeper. Last and final transition all the way out there. He goes for it. Hanging on to that last and final zone and finishing out run number 1.
Yeah, Victor Alva's there looking on fire for run number 1. Probably hoping to get into that 90s. Maybe just a little mistake there going into the final outer zone. Ends up with an 88.8. So not a bad way to start things off, especially going with one more run still in hand. Simon Sandman off the line now, initiating in. Looking good off the initiation. Lots of angle thrown towards that second outer zone as well. Gets it settled and dialed in for all of outer zone 2. Now to outer zone 3. And 4, right along the edge. Very good job from Simon here. Which is all the way out. Tries to keep that angle through those 2 outer zones. Now, one more outer zone to go. Right along the wall. And looks good doing it, Simon Sandman.
Yeah, solid run. Look at there, 92.2 on the board. That puts him in 8th position. Brandon Williams at the line and ready to go through that chicane. Off for his first run here as he initiates in. And 1, down into 2. A little late getting on throttle into outside zone 2, but he stays in it. Transitions. Outside zone 3, now 4 here, all the way out to that track edge and around that inside clip. Nicely done from Brandon, working his way down this hill now. Good angle, but he's gonna come up short that next outside zone and picks up throttle. Small little bobble there for the last and final wall and finishing out his run.
Not a bad job there from Brandon Williams, an 86.7 on the board. Next up to the line in that FC RX-7, that's going to be none other than Victor Lacheris. Initiating in. Good initiation. Lots of angle into outer zone 1. Holds good angle into outer zone 2, but maybe touches the wall there, but quickly corrects it and stays on it. Dropping a bit of tire out of outer zone 3. Getting through outer zone 4. Pushing all the way out for outer zone 5. Trying to hold that angle and speed, just touching the white line through outer zone 6. Now into outer zone 7. Nicely dialed through outer zone 7. Overall, good run from Victor.
Yeah, and I love that new car of his, just submitting the FCRX7 first competition in at 82.7 on the board. And we have Steven Hatcher ready to go. And an S13 this season, a little different from Steven Hatcher as he initiates in. Big transition into outside zone 2. And a small little boop off the wall there, working his way through outside zone 2. Now 3. Up into 4, coming up a little shallow there as he bobbles his way around that inside clip and now down the hill. And outside zone 6, last and final one, big transition across and settles in nicely from Steven Hatcher. Such a fun transition and outside zone. And nicely done there in his first run.
Yeah, very rewarding when you get it right, but, you know, some mistakes there was made by Steven. He'll have to clean it up for the next run. 83.7 on the board. Brandon Gardner now at the line at E92. Ready to go for run number 1. Initiates in. Looking good off the initiation. Down towards outer zone 2. Settles in nicely to the wall ride. Holding that angle through, holding that speed. Right along the white line for outer zone 3. Brandon Gardner here. Looking good off of this first run. Holding the angle nicely through outer zone 6. One more outer zone to go. Little bobble going into it, but holds it nice and firm all the way through. Beautiful job by Brandon Gardner.
Yeah, and another new car being submitted there this time. from Brandon Gardner, starting this season in the A6, but now switching to that E92. And look at there, a 92 on the board. How fitting. Malrupe Firewall at the line, ready to go. Lights are on. He's off for his first run. I love this car. Nice silhouette as he throws that thing in outside zone 1 and now 2. Nice and snappy on his transitions here as he works his way along that wall. Smooth transition as he picks up some momentum into outside zone 3. Good decel for 4 and around that inside clip. Working his way through this big sweeper, filling the next outside zone. Dialed in. Transitions across. Nicely done from Pure Wall here and crossing that finish line.
Yeah, Pure Wall on a mission. The mission to get a high score, and a high score indeed. 94.2 on the board for run number 1. As that settles out the first set of runs. We go back up to the top of the board. Sitting on a 92.7, Nick Hang. Scara Cosworth throws it in. Now into outer zone 2. Nice and settled to outer zone 2. Got that angle right away, back on throttle. Now to outer zone 3, keeping it almost on that white line, but definitely grabs the white line into outer zone 4 through the inside clip into outer zone 5. Nice and speedy through outer zone 6. The final transition, the final wall ride of qualifying for Nick Hang. Wow, hanging it all out on the edge. Nick Hang.
Yeah, it seems he gets more and more comfortable in that car. Is that enough to better the 92.7 he already has? And it is 93.3 on the board for Nick Hang. We've got Brett Wolford back at the line. Lights are on. And off for run 2. 93.5 already on the board for Brett as he fills outside zone 1 and throws that Mustang into outside zone 2 now. As he works his way through it. Nice and smooth from Brett, transitioning up the hill now. Smooth. Very close to dropping a tire there, though. I didn't see a puff of dirt. So he works his way down that hill. Good transition across. Filling that last and final outside zone. Nicely done from Mr. Brett Wolford.
Wow. A very solid run from Brett. Will it beat his 93.5 points short? Coming in with a 93 for run number 2 for Brett Wolford. Now, sitting on an 88.8, Victor Alves, sitting at the line. Ready to go for run number 2 here. On the straight, initiates in. Good initiation, nice angle, snappy transition into outer zone 2. Keeps that throttle buried through all of outer zone 2. Huge angle for outer zone 3, kicking up dirt through outer zone 3 and 4, but flying through that second portion of the course. Now, one more outer zone to go for Victor Alves, leaving it all out on the line here, touches the wall, but manages to keep on it, finishing out run number 2.
I thought he was done for as he came back into that wall for the second time. Just had so much speed through that big sweeper, and a 92 or 90.2 on the board for Victor Alves. Nicely done. Simon Sandman ready to go for his second run. 92.2 for Simon. He's sitting ninth. And picks up throttle, and that car kind of jumps out of the zone a little bit for outside zone 2. Nice and smooth on his transition though for 3 and 4, but drops just a tiny little bit of tire there for outside zone 4. Outside zone 6, here's 7. Last and final one, picking up throttle nice and smooth, no bobble this time. And across that finish line, is that going to be enough to better the 92.2?
It might fall just a little bit shy, just due to, the car kind of washing out going into outer zone 2, and it did. 88.5 for run number 2, but a good tiebreaker score if needed down the line. Over to Brandon Williams now. 86.7. wants to improve. If it's anything like the last 2 rounds, they want to see those 90, 91, 92 to maybe make sure they're pretty much safe. Good initiation, good transition to outer zone 2, touches the wall just near the end, makes the transition for outer zone 3, lots of angle through 3, makes it through 4, and holds a good arc through 4 over to 5 through that inside clip. Now down to 6, lots of speed here. Can he get it slowed down and in position? A little bobble, but definitely looking like a more well put together run for Brandon Williams.
Yeah, I think so. I think that should be enough, and it is by a point. 87.7 on the board for Mr. Brandon Williams. Victor Lacheris back in the RX-7 at the line for run number 2, 82.7. He currently has on that board. He transitions into outside zone 2, nice and smooth from the RX-7 there. Outside zone 3, now 4, all the way out there to that track edge, around that inside clip. And he get locked into that angle there. He does, but he comes up off of that outside zone just a little too soon. Has to extend that just a little bit, but he does, all the way up against that wall. And finishing out his second run.
Yeah, wanting to improve that 82, and I'm sure that run does it, and it does with an 89 for run number 2. So I score there for Victor of an 89. Move over to Steven Hatcher, sitting on that 83.7. Let's see what Steven can do for run number 2. Flick initiation, looks good off of it, but way too saucy into outer zone 2, and bumps right off the wall. Stays in it though, doesn't really didn't look like he went into opposite lock, so might still salvage something here out of this run. But he was definitely going for it and just saying, if this works, well, it might be the run I was looking for, but spinning out right at the very end. A good job from Steven Hatcher, knows how to put on a show.
That's a 360, right?
Of course.
Unfortunate to see there from Steven, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be enough to stay within that 44. Brandon Gardner coming off the 92 he currently has. Initiates in. Big snap into outside zone 3, kind of jumps out of it a little bit of that angle. He works his way through now. Good, smooth transition. Filling outside zone 3, no puff of dirt. Same for 4 as well. Around that inside clip. All the way out there for 5. Outside 6. Brandon Gardner locked in here for run number 2. Is it going to be enough to better the 92 he currently has?
Wow. Well, it is better than the 92, a 93.7, and I'm sure if it wasn't for that little washout in outer zone 2, that score would be a lot higher, maybe even rivaling the top qualifier so far, Zach Sullivan. Over now to Valrupe Pierwall, sitting on a 94.2, initiates in. Huge angle through outer zone 1, hucks it into outer zone 2, right along that wall, and not giving that throttle any breathing room as he keeps it buried out of there through the transition into outer zone 4. Nice and speedy through that inside clip all the way out to outer zone 5. All the wheel speed here as he sends it into the final outer zone. Just dialed, looking great from Valrupe Pierwall.
Yeah, really going after it, trying to better the 94.2. Last and final driver here in Group 2. Will that move him up from that 5th position that he currently sits? And ooh, just a little bit shy, 93.8. That'll keep him at that 5th position. And that's going to do it for 2 groups of qualifying. We're going to take a small break, I believe, here. Let me double check. Yep, and to confirm that is correct, we're gonna stop the server and load in the next 3 groups, Group 3, 4, and 5, and continue on with qualifying before we move into that last 16 qualifying battles. So stick right with us and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We are here for round 3 qualifying. 2 groups of qualifying have been completed. Zach O'Sullivan is still sitting in that number 1 position with that 97.2 on the board. Tikon Pileski right behind him with the 95.2. Same with Daniel Andrea with his 95.2 as well. Reese Tatterson with a 94.5. Ball Rupe Purewell with a 94.2. Brandon Garner the 93.7. Brett Wolford with his 93.5, and Nick Hang also with his 93.5. And as I listed those things off, it looks like we are gonna have to give Silver another quick restart here, and we'll just bring this screen right back up and we'll take a quick restart here. We'll stay with you though. If you're just now joining us, quickly loading back in. Once more, we are back again. There's those top 8 qualifying scores now up on the board, and we've got some more strong groups ahead of us here. Group 3 to start things off: Artem Chokov, Vitaly Esau, Heroa Manoa, Cameron Mustard, Alan Hines, Daryl Diaz, Vladislav Yakovlevich, Linus Tortris, Ethan Minima, and Braden Swan, all up next here in Group 3 qualifying. Tons of 90s on the board. Tanner, what do you think?
I mean, so far these guys are doing what they always do, and they go, oh, right, how do we raise the bar even higher than we do every other round? I mean, looking at it from a judge's perspective, I would not want to be them, because trying to just look at and nitpick every single run for the smallest little mistakes, it's insane. These guys are they keep improving every round. And even the newcomers keep improving every round, and it's just so awesome to watch the growth throughout each season and how they keep pushing that bar just a little bit further and further each and every year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's insanity from these drivers. Absolute robots as we see each and every single round. So get there a little bit of practice in. One of the judges sorting things out. No, that is going to be last call from those judges for those drivers to finish out their practice runs before sending them off. And Artem Chokov will start things out for us in Group 3. There he is at the line, ready to go. Interesting limiter there from Artem Chokov as he's out of the chicane and initiating in, filling outside zone 1, now 2. Big snappy transition across there from Artem Chokov. Nice and smooth, working his way up the hill now. Big snap transition, and has to use a little bit of left foot brake to kind of work that way up the hill just a little bit more for the inside clip. Nicely done here into the last and final zone though. Locked in, and there he goes, crossing that finish line.
Yeah, Artem not doing too shabby of a run there to start out group number 3. Wait for his scores to come on in. While Vitaly patiently waits on the line. First score's in, second score's in. Waiting on that third one. There we go, an 88.8 on the board for run number 1 of Artem Chokov. And now, ready to go with our next driver. Vitaly initiating in. Looking good off the initiation. Lots and lots of angle. Really having to get that beamer slowed down though for outer zone 2. Grabs outer zone 3 beautifully. Same with outer zone 4. Grabs that inside clip, pushes all the way out. Outer zone 5. Vitaly looking really loaded, like dialed in here. Front end almost wanting to wash out on him a little bit as he came into the final outer zone, but finishes out the run nice and clean.
Yeah, nicely done in that awesome car, I must say, from Vitaly. 93.3 on the board. That's going to currently put him in 8th position. Heroa in his 8-6. And initiating in. Filling outside zone 1, down and outside zone 2. Nice and smooth from Heroa. Connection looks good this round as well. I hope it stays stable as we knock on wood as he transitions up the hill around the inside clip. We're all locked in here for round 3. Last and final transition across. Look at there. Heroa dialed in and finishing out his first run of qualifying.
Minowa coming out swinging run number 1. Couple little mistakes here and there that he can clean up on run number 2, but an 89.5 on the board for Heroa for his first run. getting ready to go for their first run also is Cameron Mustard. Now R32 initiates in, looking good off the initiation. Nice angle, good snap transition, right to angle for outer zone 2. Holding it nicely, and it's transitioning up to outer zone 3, right along the white line. Now through 4, into that inside clip, and all the way out to outer zone 5. Looking good so far here for Cameron Mustard. Comes in to the final outer zone, and just a nice clean run to finish it out for run number 1.
Yeah, not bad from Cameron. Probably the oldest car model in the field. Pre-extensions, 88.7 on the board for Cameron Mustard. Here's Alan Hines initiating in. Big transition into outside zone 2 now, looking good. And filling outside zone 3 now, 4 all the way up there. Around that inside clip. Locked in is Alan Hines so far. Last and final transition coming up across that course there into the last and final outside zone along the wall. And across that finish line. Holy moly.
Okay, Alan, we see you. We see you, Alan. Oh, man. Throwing that car, and not only throwing it, but also dethroning our top qualifier. Now is Alan Hines with a 97.8 on the board. Absolutely fire first run. Daryl Diaz leaving the line. He has to follow up on that. But it's okay, Daryl. Don't let the pressure get to you. Falls into outer zone 2 nicely. Little correction, but hangs on to it all the way through outer zone 2. Makes the transition through 3. Daryl on a run of his own right now as he comes up through outer zone 5, hold a nice angle all the way to 6. One last transition to go, one last wall ride. Gets the angle settled nicely in that S chassis, holds it all the way through to the finish line.
Yeah, Daryl making the switch before this round, and yeah, what a run. Let's see what that score is going to be from him. 86.8. So needs to better it just a little bit there as Yakulovic is at the line ready to go. Initiating in, filling outside zone 1. Could have been maybe a little closer to that track edge, but settles in nicely to outside zone 2, using a little bit of left foot brake. Transitioning up the hill now for outside zone 3. Now 4. Around that inside clip. And back down the hill. And some final transition into outside zone. Along the wall. Hanging on to it. I thought his run was going to end there. Continuing on.
Yeah, it was very close indeed. He was right on that edge of, can he get it slowed down just enough? But ends up with an 83.7 for run number 1. Move over to Linus Tornquist in the Toyota Supra. Initiates in, lots of angle off that initiation. Lots of angle being thrown into outer zone 2. Dials it back just a bit, but holds it nicely through all of outer zone 2. Linus gets through outer zone 3. Sacrifices a little bit into 4, but gets back on throttle enough to finish, to fully fill all of 5. Then through 6, one last transition. Gets into the pocket for outer zone 8, puts it on the wall. Not a bad drive there from Linus. So here we go. Next up, so Linus there ending up with a 91.2. Not a bad job indeed as Ethan Minima now comes swinging in that beautiful E36. Nice job through outer zone 2. Keeps the angle nice and consistent. Pulls out of it. Transitions into outer zone 3 and 4. Grabbing everything beautifully. Filling all of 3, 4, the inside clip, and 5 and 6 now. Ethan throwing it out there. He gets all the way into outer zone 8. What a great run from Ethan Minima. Absolutely unreal. 91.3 on the board. That's a great way to start out your first runs. Now, the last driver of qualifying for the first runs of group number 3, Braden Swan in the 370Z initiates in. Looks good so far as he gets it settled and slowly works his way out through outer zone 2. Not as deep off the beginning, but makes it there near the end. Fills all of outer zone 3, makes a quick transition for outer zone 4. Grabs that inside clip and fills most of outer zone 5. Then grabs all of outer zone 6. One last transition. Puts it into the pocket, looking way better now through outer zone 8. Finish out the run. We'll see what kind of score he puts on.
Yeah, not bad there from Braden Swan. 89 on the board. So I believe we work our way back around to Artem Cholkov. Currently sitting on that 88.8. And Artem off for run number 2. Again, trying to better the 88.8. Transitions into that first outside zone nicely. Picking up that throttle. Car almost wanted to do a wheelie there in outside zone 2. Working his way up into outside zone 3. Nicely done for Ford, picking up that throttle and around that inside clip. A little cleaner from his first run in that area of the course as he fills that outside zone. Big transition across. Maybe a little early, has to extend, but makes it work until last and final outside zone. Crossing that finish line. Is that going to be enough?
Well, let's hope it's enough. Ends up with a 91.7, so it was enough. Bettering that 88.8. Now sitting on the 93.3, Vitaly Azayev initiates in. He is flying in that BMW into outer zone 2. I didn't think it was going to slow down in time. Dabs a little bit of brake there right at the end of outer zone 2, but quickly transitions through 3 and 4. He is flying around this course, probably the fastest we've seen it done today. As he comes through outer zone 6, one more outer zone to go, a little bobble near the entrance, but holds it together nicely and hoping to beat that 93.3.
Yeah, he might just with that run. Another strong run from him. 95 on that board as we work our way back around to Heroa for his second run. Initiating in, nicely done for outside zone 1, now into 2. And transitioning up the hill. Filling that outside zone 3, 4 now. Oh, maybe dropping a little bit of tire. He does. It sends him a little wide of that inside clip. And last and final transition. Puts on the brakes a little bit and fills that last and final outside zone across that finish line. Nicely done from Heroa.
Well, Heroa was hoping to beat his 89.5, but falling short there through that inside clip. 87.2 for the final run, but sitting on an 88.7. Cameron Mustard throwing it in that R32, heading towards outer zone 2. Again, carrying tons of speed. I'm amazed these guys can get these cars slowed down in time. That is just absolutely unreal as they come through outer zone 3. Now 4 could have been just a bit deeper into outer zone 4, but it sets him up nicely for outer zone 5. Down towards outer zone 6, not quite filling it, but he's going with the speed. He's keeping that speed. A little bobble there as he comes through outer zone 8 and finishes out the run.
Will it be enough? might be to better the 88.7, and he falls just a little short. 87 on the board. Here's Alan Hines leaving the chicane. Initiating in nicely. Filling outside zone 2 in this beginning part of it. Can he better the 97.8 already on the board? Filling outside zone 3. Transitions up the hill for 4. Picking up throttle early and smooth as he's locked into that line and angle through the big sweeper. Adds just a little bit there before transitioning into last and final zone. Locked into the wall now. And there he goes across that finish line.
Well, he topped the charts once. Can he do it again? 97.8? No, just shy. 97.5 on the board for the second run of qualifying for Alan Hines. As we move over now, Daryl Diaz sitting on that 86.8, wanting to improve. See what he can throw down. Initiates in. Looking good off the initiation through outer zone 1. Nice entry into outer zone 2. Pulls out some of that angle though, as he leaves outer zone 2 towards outer zone 3, right along that white line. Looking good now into the second half of this course through that hairpin section. Could have been deeper into outer zone 5, but makes up for it for outer zone 6. One last transition. One last outer zone of qualifying for Daryl Diaz. He finishes it out strong. Will the score reflect it?
And it does. 89.7 on the board for Daryl Diaz. Yakulovich back at the line, ready to go for his second run. And initiating in. Oh, and quite the bobble there into outside zone 2. Just couldn't quite get that car settled. So he transitions up for outside zone 3 now. And to 4, all the way out there to that track edge, working his way around that inside clip, but again, just not quite settled in on that angle. It's super important here on this layout, but throws it into the last and final wall, boots it a little bit, and there he goes, finishing out his second run.
Kulovich wanting to improve, but that run, yeah, 75, falling quite short of that 83.7. But still might make it into the last chance qualifying. We move over to Linus Tornquist sitting on a 91.2. Initiates in. Nice and smooth initiation for Linus as he throws it into outer zone 2, holding that angle nicely. Not trying to pull out of it through outer zone 2. Makes the transition now to outer zone 3. Again, nice and smooth with the Supra. A little bobble there going into that inside clip. It makes up for it. Grabs the outer zone. Grabs all of outer 6. Now for the final one. Gets that Supra slowed down. Again, holds that nice, consistent angle. A nice smooth run from Linus here. Hoping he beats that 91.2.
And there it is. Yeah, he does. 92.2 on the board. That'll move him up into 12th position. Ethan Minima, 91.3 currently on the board. And currently 16th, filling outside zone 1. Nice and snappy on that transition into outside zone 2. But a big front wheel correction, but doesn't really affect the car too much as he transitions up to outside zone 3. Filling 4 with big angle as he works his way around that inside clip. Now back down the hill, the big sweeper, holding on to that angle all the way around it, mashing on that throttle and transitioning back to the last and final wall ride and across that finish line.
Well, Ethan, great run. Not quite reaching that 91.3, but just shy, 90.8 for Ethan's second run. We're on to our last driver here of qualifying for group number 3. Initiating in is Braden Swan, sitting on an 89. Puts it right onto the wall there for outer zone 2. Makes the transition now to outer zone 3, right along that white line. Very snappy transition to outer zone 4, and it pays off. He's he makes it to that inside clip. Maybe not filling all of 5, but definitely filling all of 6 as he makes the final transition into outer zone 8. For the last run of qualifying, the last run of Group 3, he crosses the line. Will it beat that 89?
And falling short, 86.7 on the board. So we'll have to wait and see if that 89 is gonna be enough to maybe keep him in that last 16 qualifying battles. Currently sitting 21st. But we've got 2 more groups coming up. That's gonna do it for Group 3. Group 4 will now load in. And another strong group: Abdul Rahman Al Shetwi, Austin Zalewski, Olivier Blias, Brandon Patrick Ernestes Yakulovas, Danielis Pirangauskas, Nick Novak, Alexander Yegard, Ethan Pikachu, and Kevin Stump, all coming up here for Group 4 as they take their little practice runs before we send them off for their quali. Getting the last call from those judges, those drivers to take their last practice runs before we send them off here for group number 4. Alan Hines still sitting up top, 97.8. Those 2 super strong runs. Group 3. Relatively sunny day in the UK. Silverstone 2005 layout B. This layout will get released right after the round, and we will be updating our servers a little bit as well to require CSP before joining, which will allow us to drive backwards even with those AI lines on, and add a couple of other features as they add some as well. Abdul Rahman Al Shetwi now at the line, ready to go. His Nissan Z lights are on, and he's off for his first run here in Group 4. Initiating and filling outside zone 1. Good transition and holding a ton of speed there, coming into outside zone 2. Flying through that zone now, transitioning up, filling 3. Good transition into 4, all the way out there to that track edge, around that inside clip. Nicely done on his line and angle here through the big sweeper, filling that outside zone. Good transition across, a little bit of lag there. And across that finish line, nicely done from Abdul Rahman.
Al Shetwi there, kind of coming out swinging for Group 4. Setting the bar pretty high already, a 94 on the board. So Boston here is going to have some work to do. Austin Silveski leaving the line, ready for their first run of qualifying. Initiates in that Toyota Supra. Looking good on the transition into outer zone 2. Holding that angle all the way through it. Now out to outer zone 3. Down towards 4. Could have filled both those zones a little bit more, but makes up for it for outer zone 5, filling all of 5 and now heading towards 6. One last transition to go for Austin Zaleski here. Looking good through outer zone 8 to cross that finish line.
Yeah, wearing that throttle out in that last and final outside zone. 92.5 on the board for Austin Zalewski. Olivier up next and through the chicane for his first run. For round 3. Nice and smooth on his transition and down into outside zone 2. Working his way around this big outside zone. Leaving it when he should and transitioning it across for outside zone 3. Up the hill for 4. Around that inside clip. Nice and smooth so far from Olivier. Down the hill now. Could have been a little bit deeper for that outside zone. Transitions across. And settles into the last and final wall before crossing that finish line.
And not a bad run indeed from Olivier. Throwing up an 89.5 for run number 1. Not bad at all. As Brandon Patrick sits at the line, ready to go for his first run of qualifying. Down the straight they come, initiating in. Good off the initiation, carrying lots of speed into outer zone 2, goes into the wall, but he manages to hold it together as he comes out of outside zone number 2 through outer zone 3 now, right along that white line on outer zone 4. Now the rest of the run is looking super dialed, but that early mistake into the wall just carrying too much speed, thing that's really going to affect the score here for run number 1.
And there it is, a nice score on the board of 69, but he's got another run left to go. Ernestas at the line, he's ready to go. Run number 1, filling outside zone 1, and now 2. What's he done so far to start things out? Working his way up. Going 3, nice and smooth so far, and a good line locked into the angle around that inside clip. Driving down the hill, big sweeper down into the next outside zone, and big transition across again, nice and smooth from Ernestas. Nothing crazy here as he crosses that finish line, settled in.
Yeah, Ernestas is not one to look down on as this guy's not the, he knows how to drive and pulls it out nice with a 90.8 for the first run on the board as we move over to Danielis, throwing it in into outer zone 2. Nice and solid. Nice good angle throughout all of outer zone 2. Makes the transition now for outer zone 3 right along the white line. Then into 4, kicking up just a little bit of dirt there through outer zone 4, but makes a great arc through outer zone 5 and 6. Danielis Parangaukis on a mission. Nice and deep through outer zone 8. What a good run.
Yeah, nicely done, and a ton of speed coming into outside zone 2. And there it is, 91.2 on the board. I need to make my graphic a little bit bigger there to fit his name. But there it is, Danielis Parangauskas with a strong run. Nick Novak through the chicane. Returning in to E36 and transitioning, huge angle, and goes a little bit too deep there. We see him drop a little bit of tire and then get into the wall, but he's going to continue on anyway. Filling outside zone 3, now 4 up the hill. Nice and smooth around that inside clip, and a lot of speed around that inside clip as well as he drives down for that outside zone. Big transition across. Is he too far? Almost. Has to drive out of the wall just a little bit, and there he goes across that finish line. So a couple of things to clean up from Mr. Nick Novak, but man, if he can clean those things up, strong score ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I know he was complaining yesterday of some setup issues, the car not really doing what he wanted it to do, so hopefully he gets it all dialed in and ready to go for run number 2 as he ends up with a 68.8 on the board as we move over to Alexander Yegert in that E92. Throwing it sideways into the wall, though. That is the first hit today we've seen into the side of that wall. Oh, Alexander, not a fun way to start your day. But you still got one more run.
Yeah, he sure does. Unfortunate one to see a big hit there into that wall. Ethan Pikachu returning back in his Z. He's off for his first run. This thing is freaking awesome. I love this livery as he throws that car into outside zone 2. Gets a tiny little piece of that wall before continuing on. So a small, teeny, tiny little angle correction there due to that wall. Filling outside zone 3. Now 4 up the hill. Around that inside clip. Nice and smooth. He works his way around the big sweeper now. Massive power alley and across that track. Nice transition into the last and final wall. And finishing out his first run.
Ethan ending up with an 87.5 on the board. Not too shabby for the first run as we move to our last driver of Group 4 for the first set of runs. Kevin Stump in the Mustang, initiating in. Not as much angle as we've seen on some people's initiations, but first run out, maybe doing something modest, just nicely going with it. Has to back out of some of the angle on the outer zone 2 as he comes through 3 and 4 now. Starts driving towards outer zone 5, trying to keep that Mustang at angle. One last transition to go. Puts it through outer zone 8, but just not that deep through it. Just a very conservative run for Kevin Stump. And Kevin Stump ends up with a 70.8. We go back to the top of the field, sitting on a 94. Abdulrahman Al-Shetwi ripping through outer zone 2. No change in correction of his angle. Through outer zone 3, now into outer zone 4. Through that inside clip, pushing all the way out to outer zone 5. Wants to improve that 94. Down into the final outer zone. Looking nice and smooth. A little bit of lag there, but that wasn't on his end. Looking good for Abdulrahman. Hopefully enough to increase on that 94. Just falls a little bit shy with a 93.
Yeah, just 1 point shy, and we're back around to Austin Zalewski. Turning back in the Supra, 92.5 currently on the board. He transitions into outside zone 2, only sitting 13th. Can he better it? Transitioning up the hill. Nice line. Good angle for 4 and a smooth decel for it to get him around that inside clip and tight to it. Through the power alley. Big transition across all the way out there to that edge. Locked in is Austin Zalewski going after it, trying to better the 92.5. Again, will it be enough?
Austin really putting his foot to the floor there and saying, let's give it everything that this Supra has, and has indeed. Ends up with a 95.2 on the board. So very good run from Austin Zalewski as Olivier Belias sits at the line. Lights go on. Olivier sitting on an 89.5, wants to move up into those 90s. Normally that 90 is the sweet spot for these events. Puts it nicely onto the wall. Nice and smooth transitions. Comes out of outer zone 2 through outer zone 3. Beautifully done through outer zone 4 as well. Just putting the car where it needs to be. Not being too aggressive. Left the outer zone 6 a little early. Then makes his way through outer zone 8. Maybe could have been a bit deeper into outer zone 8 as well. But it should be enough to beat that score.
And there it is. It just does a 90.8. That'll move him on up into 21st position. Brandon Patrick, number 2. in that C4. And solid in the outside zone 2, working his way through it here. Transitioning up the hill, filling 3. Big snap into 4. Goes a little wide of the inside clip, but fills that outside zone 5. Now down into 6. All the way out there. Good transition across. Lots of angle. Locks into it. Doesn't waver from it. And there he goes, finishing run number 2. That should definitely be enough to beat his nice score.
Yes, definitely will be. As the score comes in at 93.8 for run number 2 for Brandon Patrick. That's the Brandon we're used to seeing. Now next at the line, sitting on a 90.8, Ernestus Yakulibis. Heading down in that A90 Supra, initiates in, carrying lots of speed into outer zone 2, gets back on throttle, and holds that angle all the way through it. Looking good so far. Into outer zone 3, down to outer zone 4, line to line, track edge to track edge. Filling all the zones here is Ernestus. Looking very solid as he makes that final transition into outer zone 8. Ernestus on a tear here. That, I think, is going to beat that 90 as well.
Yeah, just might. Sitting on that 90.8. Yeah, look at there. 95.3. He'll move up into now 3rd position. Ernestus Yakulibis. Danielis Perengauskis now through that starting chicane and initiating maybe a little early there. A little funky from Danielis. Currently sitting on that 91.2. Filling outside zone 3, working his way up the hill now. A little bit shallow of 4 and a big bobble around that inside clip. And yeah, just kind of shuts down a little bit there. Maybe a little bit too much grip down in and throwing it into that last and final wall run. Just gonna slam on the brakes. Yeah, there is the 0 on the board for Danielis. But a good effort from him. He'll stay with that 91.2.
Yeah, it was looking like a good run, and then it just all of a sudden snapped on him into that inside clip, and that was it. But next driver up, Nick Novak, sitting on a 68.8, definitely wanting to improve. Went into the wall last time at outer zone 2. What happens this time? He holds it together and stays in it. He makes it through outer zone 2, nice and clean. Now for the rest of it, through outer zone 3, down through outer zone 2 or 4. And up through 5, looking like he's starting to be settled. Makes the transition down to outer zone 8. There's that front end wash that we've been talking about with that car. But he holds it together, and that should definitely improve on that 68.
Yeah, will it be enough to put him on into today's battles? 84.5 on the board for Mr. Nick Novak. There's Alexander Yegard. Fortunately going into the wall for his first run in outside zone 2. A little bit of late initiation from him, but stays off the wall this time, continuing on for outside zone 2. Smooth transition all the way out there for that outside zone 3, 4 as well. Around that inside clip, locked into his angle. And he's going to come up just a little bit short of that outside zone. Transitions across all the way out there to that wall. And there he goes, finishing out his second run, coming off that 0 when the pressure's on.
Yeah, and an 88.2 off of a 0. Well, that's a pretty good score indeed. That'll definitely bump him up there as we move over to Ethan Pikachu, sitting on that 87.5. Ethan throws it in. Almost looks like he was on the grass there off the initiation, but keeps it together. Beautiful entry into outer zone 2. Now the transition to outer zone 3, down towards 4. Could have been a bit deeper into outer zone 4, but makes up for it in outer zone 5, dropping some tire there on the exit of 5. Right on the track limit as he comes into outer zone 8 for the final time in qualifying. Not too shabby for Ethan Pikachu.
Yeah, nicely done, as we have that top 28 cutoff score is at 89, so it needs to better. He does 92.8 on the board for Ethan Pikachu. That's going to put him in 16th position. Kevin Stump 70.8 is what he's currently sitting on. He initiates in. And big angle this time for outside zone 2, but he leaves that zone almost completely for the wall. So he transitions up the hill, now filling outside zone 3. A lot better here in this portion of the course, but does drop a little bit of tire there. So he drives around that inside clip and just not quite settled there on his angle. Last and final transition into the wall. Settles in, almost giving it a tap, and there he goes, finishing out his second run.
Yeah, finishes it out. Doesn't improve, though. 67.5 for run number 2 of Kevin Stump.
And that is going to do it for Group 4. So our last and final group now loading in for qualifying. That's going to be Robert Kivsinski, Masashi Yoshida, Darius Ostraka, Oliver Eppinger, Maxime Tingai, Mustafa Amine, Quain Ebanks, Abdulaziz Al-Harbi, and Dimitri Mitten. Our last and final group of qualifying. We'll bring up those top qualifying scores so far here for round 3. Allen still number 1 with that 97.8 on the board. Zach O'Sullivan right behind him with the 97.2, and Ernestas working his way into that top 3 with a 95.3 on the board. Final call from those judges for those drivers. Take their last and final practice runs before we send them off. Again, Robert Kivsinski will kick things off for our last and final group. As he comes to the line in his new 890 Supra. Again, if you're just tuning in for the first time, we do a thing called our last 16 qualifying battles, where 29 through 44 get slotted in to a 16 battle where they'll battle it out for the last 4 positions in the top 32. Here's Robert throwing that Supra in. Filling outside zone 2 so far. Along that wall, good transition up the hill. And nicely done for 4, almost coming up a little shallow, using his left foot brake to get around that inside clip down the hill, now filling that outside zone and flying into this last and final transition. Nicely done for this wall. And there he goes across that finish line.
Yeah, Robert doing a good job to start out Group 5, our final group of qualifying here, ending up with a 92.5. See what Masashi Yoshida can do in his first run of qualifying. Down the straight, initiating in. Lots of angle through outer zone 1, down to outer zone 2, tries to hang on to it, does. Only has to pull out a little bit of angle, gets it dialed in, keeps that throttle planted in that wagon. Through outer zone 3, right along the edge through outer zone 4, pushing out all the way through 5. Keep it on it. I don't think I've seen him lift yet. Oh, there it is for the decel zone, but then right back to full throttle. Poor Masashi Yoshida around outer zone 8, putting the limiter to the test.
Yeah, absolutely, and a strong run from a 95.3 on the board. Here's Darius Ostraka. For his run and initiating in. Nicely done into outside zone 2 now, filling it all the way up to the wall. Good transition up the hill as well. So he works his way around that inside clip. Down the hill now, big sweeper, power alley, filling that outside zone. Good transition across all the way out there to that edge. Continuing on. There it is for his first run.
And not a bad run indeed from Darius. That was very smooth, very well put together run at a 93.7. So it's first 3 drivers here all above the 90s. Oliver Eppinger's up next. Let's see if we keep this trend going. Initiating in, looking good off the initiation through outer zone 1. Fast transition into outer zone 2, right to that angle, and hangs onto it through all of outer zone 2. Grabs all of outer zone 3, maybe leaves just a little bit early, but that's okay. Makes up for it through 4 and 5. Now down towards outer zone 6. Could have been deeper into outer zone 6. Comes into 7 as he comes into outer zone 8 now, filling out all of outer zone 8, hoping to keep this 90 trend going for group 5.
And there it is, a 93.2 on the board. Here's Maxime Tengai. Through the chicane, initiating in on big angle there. And into outside zone 2, picking up that throttle early. Staying in that zone all the way up against that wall as he transitions up now for 3. All the way to that white line for 4 as well. So massages that car around that inside clip and back down. We've been a little bit deeper for that zone. Last and final transition up to that wall. Locked into the angle there is Maxime before crossing that finish line.
Yeah, very good run indeed. And looks like that 90 trend is still going. 92.3 for Maxime Tengai. Next up off the line, Mustafa Amane. Initiating in. Lots of angle there through outer zone 1. Now the transition to outer zone 2. Just kicking up a little bit of dirt, but holding that angle beautifully through outer zone 2. Now the smooth transition into outer zone 3. Then through 4, right along the white line. Mustafa Amane pushing all the way out for outer zone 5. And grabbing all of outer zone 6. One last transition. One last decel. A little tiny bobble there as he drives off the line and has to push it back into the zone. Other than that, a great run.
Yeah, nicely done from Mustafa there. And an 89.7 on the board. So we've got Quain Ebanks ready to go at the line through the chicane. And initiating in, filling outside zone 1 into outside zone 2, but leaves that zone just a little bit. And that big GTR working his way now, transitioning for outside zone 3 and now 4 around that inside clip. And locked in here. Can he make it all the way out to that zone? He does. Good transition across. And the last and final zone again could have been a little bit deeper. He works his way out there to it and across that finish line.
Quain Ebanks struggled in a couple spots, but a second run to make up for it as he comes in with an 85.3 for run number 1. Abdulaziz Al-Harbi at the line, ready to go for their first run of qualifying. Initiating in, looking good off the initiation. And Looks good on the transition into outer zone 2. Lets it bobble just a little bit as he settles into the angle. Quickly regains that control. Transitions to outer zone 3. Doesn't fill all of outer zone 3. Puts him off a little bit for 4, but manages to fill all of 5. Down towards outer zone 6. Not quite filling all of outer zone 7, sorry. And into 8. Not a bad run from Abdulaziz. A couple things to clean up the next time around, though.
Yeah, not too bad from him indeed, 82.5. So that does put him below that top 44 cutoff for the last 16 qualifying battles. So definitely wants to better it. Here's Dimitri Mitten initiating in. And into outside zone 2 now. Working his way through. Transitioning up into outside zone 3 all the way out there to that track edge. Same for 4 as well as he works his way around that inside clip. Maybe second hash there through this power alley all the way out to that track edge, and a good transition across from Dimitri. Again, last and final driver here in qualifying and across that finish line.
Yeah, Dimitri having to put himself to the very back of everyone, but making up for it. 92.8 for the first run of qualifying for Dimitri. We go back up to the top. Robert Kavinsky leaving the line, sitting on a 92.5, wanting to improve. Snappy initiation, right to angle through outer zone 1, transitions quickly to outer zone 2 and holds it all the way through, maybe adding a bit of angle there just at the very end. Makes that transition through outer zone 3, now into 4. Gets slowed down for that inside clip, out to 5, now towards 6. Beautiful run. Could have filled 6 a little bit more. That was the only part he missed out on, but he beautifully comes into the final outer zone and crosses that finish line.
Nicely done from Robert there, trying to better the 92.5. And he does not, falls just a little bit short with a 92. As Masashi Yoshida leaves the line and initiates in. Whoa, big snap into outside zone 2 and somehow slows that car down, stays in the zone, stays off the wall, transitions up to outside zone 3 now, filling it all the way. Nicely done for 4 as well as he works around that inside clip, nice and tight to it, pulls out of the angle just a little bit there for the big sweeper, and a ton of angle into the last and final outside zone, has to pull out of that angle just a little bit there and finishes out his second run.
What a run by Masashi Yoshida. Trying to improve that 95.3, falls just shy with a 93.5. Good tiebreaker score though, as Darius Ostraka leaves the line sitting on a 93.7. Initiates in, looking good through outer zone 1. And nicely done into outer zone 2. Controlled that angle and speed beautifully to hold it all the way around outer zone 2. Right out to the white line for outer zone 3. Now through 4, through that inside clip, out all the way to 5, just kicking up a little bit of dirt there. Drives it right to the edge of outer zone 6. The final transition. Thought he was going to go into the wall there, but kept it right on the razor's edge all the way through to the finish.
Trying to better that 93.7. He does by 0.1. 93.8 on the board. Oliver Effinger at the line, ready to go for his second run. 93.2. That's what he currently has. Nice and snappy transition, but small, tiny little bobble as he picks up that throttle for outside zone 2 and transitioning up the hill now, filling 3, 4 as well, all the way out to that track edge, around that inside clip, adds some angle, and outside zone 4 now down, 5 into 6 now, coming up a little bit shy. Same with his first run as well. Maybe a little bit too much grip dialed into that Supra, crossing that finish line for run number 2.
Yeah, Oliver coming in with a 92, so not beating his 93.2, but still very consistent, which is good to see. We'll probably play into battles later on today. Sitting on a 92.3, Maxime Tinguy in the 1 series here, throwing it into outer zone 2, right along the wall, even touching it just a little bit. Had to plant the foot even further through the floor to keep it at the angle it was at, but he did a good job through outer zone 3 and 4, and now through 5, driving towards 6. Looking good. Could have filled 6 a little bit more, but beautiful job into outer zone 7. Finishing out the run strong and finishing out his qualifying run strong.
Nicely done from a Manny. Betters at 93 on the board for Maxime. Mustafa now ready to go. Lights are on. And through that chicane, not quite. He's gonna go back to the line and try that again. I'm not sure anyone's ever done that in quality. So
that's a first.
Here's Mustafa. Oh no, what's going on?
Cutting it down again, and they're putting... Just waiting. I'm watching what the judges are doing on the sheet.
No, it sounds like, yeah, he had a, Yeah, that is going to be an unfortunate 0.
Now they 0 him out. Very sad way to end Mustafa, but still sitting on that 89.7. It should be enough as we move over to Quain Ebanks, sitting on an 85.3, wanting to improve. Down the straight, initiating it. Right along the track edge for initiation. Transitions into outer zone 2. No wavering. Big body on that GTR. He's got to watch how close he is to that wall as he grabs all the way out to the track edge of outer zone 3 and 4. Through that inside clip, through 5. Drive it all the way to outer zone 6. Could have been a bit deeper in outer zone 6, but in outer zone 7, dials it in beautifully. Finishes up the run strong.
On those scores, and falling just a little shy, an 83 on the board for his second run, but I think that is going to be enough, yeah, to put him on into that last 16 qualifying battles. Abdulaziz Al-Harbi, 82.5, needs to better it a little bit here and get higher than an 83.7 if he wants to make it into those last 16 qualifying battles, or higher than a 91.2 for top 32 as he transitions up the hill around that inside clip, filling outside zone 5 now as he works his way through really wide there. He's going to come up a little too soon out of outside zone 6 now into the last and final one. Small little bobbles there and crossing that finish line.
Yeah, a lot of corrections there at the end in the outer zone, or in clip 8 there. Final outer zone, and that is going to hurt his score. A 75.2 for run number 2 for Abdulaziz Al-Harbi. We now come to the last battle of the last run of qualifying. Dimitri Mitten sitting on a 92.8, initiates in, looking good. Throwing it sideways through outer zone 1. Beautifully done through outer zone 2 as well. Dimitri maybe wanting to improve that score of his. He's already in. Maybe just makes it that little bit better as he comes through to the final outer zone and cleans this run one and done, and that does it for qualifying.
Yeah, will it be enough to better the 92.8? And falling quite shy with the 88.3 on the board. We'll take a look at our full top qualifying scores here, and again, Alan Hines coming out on top, number 1 position with that 97.8. Zach O'Sullivan with a 97.2 in second position, and Masashi Yoshida in third position, 95.3 on the board. Fantastic runs from all of these drivers as we look at those cutoff scores as well. Samuel Cuddy looks to be that last and final driver, but we will make sure sometimes that sheet wants to have a couple of hiccups here and there when it comes to those tiebreaker scores. As we see, we have 383.7s there from Samuel Cuddy, Vladislav Yakulovic, and also Stephen Hatcher. Stephen, I believe, having an unfortunate 0, so I think it's going to come down to Samuel Cuddy and Vladislav Yakulovic, so we'll get confirmation on that, and then we'll turn our eyes to the 28th position. Danielis Parangauskas will be our last and final driver to get locked into that top 32 from there down, so Olivier Blias will find his way on that last 16 qualifying battles, and all of that is again coming up next right after this, so stay with us. We will take a small break here from our wonderful partners and sponsors of the Virtual Drift Championship, and then come right back with some last 16 qualifying battles here at round 3 Silverstone Layout B. All right, welcome back, everyone. Again, this is round 3 of the Virtual Drift Championship at the old school Silverstone Circuit from 2005. And a fun little stadium layout if you're just now joining us. First, we will take a look at our line map again before we head into these last 16 qualifying battles. Again, start of the course is in the bottom right-hand portion of your screen and initiating into the first outside zone at clip 1 and then down into clip 2 for your first decel zone. Again, that area is a little large there to allow for a smooth decel zone, especially from those lead drivers in that area of the course, quickly picking up throttle once you're in that zone and remaining on throttle all the way through outside zone 2, that big wall ride, transitioning up the hill first, taking a left, not staying right, taking a left quickly up into outside zone 3, clip 3, and then your next outside zone, clip 4, up at the top of the hill again with another decel zone, and that same situation where it's a little large to allow for that decel to be nice and smooth rate of decel rather than a quick stab of the brakes and then go. Picking up throttle quickly after leaving that zone, really right at the end of it is kind of your trigger there as a driver, and then around that inside clip at clip 5 down into clip 6, your next outside zone, and a big sweeping power alley there from clip 6 to 7 and then into 8, transitioning to 8 with your last and final decel zone. Once again, another big area there for those drivers to keep it smooth through that decel area, and then you finish out at the beginning of clip 2, that clip 2 marker, basically the very end of clip 8, that last and final outside zone marks our finish of the course. We'll take a look at our last 16 qualifying battles bracket. Olivier Blias and Samuel Cuddy will be first, Victor Lecheris and Russell Jones, Christian Petrov and Brandon Williams, Mustafa Amine and Alexander Yegard here in our first group of these last 16 qualifying battles. Again, this is 29 through 44 are placed into this bracket. They battle it out. Once we have those last 4 drivers, they get then slotted in to that top 32 bracket that we will watch later, our main event. So our last and final call being called by those judges before sending them off. And again, we will line up Olivier Blias and Samuel Cuddy first for the last 16 qualifying battles for round 3. looks like a different group. We're going to skip ahead to Victor Lacheris and Russell Jones coming to the line first.
Definitely are. Victor Lacheris in your lead lane. Russell Jones chasing him down for the first battle here for the last 16 qualifying battles. Initiating in. Looking good off the initiation. Lacheris doing everything good out front. But Russell Jones keeping that Supra in the pocket around the first long outer zone through that wall ride. Dropping a tire in the lead there from Victor Lacheris. But keeping close proximity. Russell Jones sticking it on the door, keeping him within striking distance. They get to the decel zone for the final outer zone, and look at Russell Jones trying to take advantage of it. But Victor manages to just keep him at bay all through outer zone, the final outer zone.
Yeah, what a way to start out the last 16 qualifying battles. We'll take another look at it here on the replay. Initiating in and filling outside zone 2. A couple of small little bobbles there out front from Victor Lacheris, but Russell handling it well there. Could have been a little bit closer here and there throughout this course. He's close on the bumper through the transitions, but doesn't quite reel in the door of Victor until there. The big sweeping power alley transitioning across again right along that bumper, and then reeling him back in just a little bit before, a little gap establishing there before crossing that finish line.
Well, back around. We flip them around now at the start gate. Russell Jones will now lead. Victor Lacheris will chase him down. Who moves on? Russell Jones initiates in. Victor leaving enough room for the transition as they come into the second outer zone. And Victor really putting it in the pocket of Russell Jones. Russell Jones doing a great job out front here, though. Not dropping any tire, unlike Victor in his lead run. But Victor is all over the door as they come through this power alley section back down the hill into the final outer zone. Victor trying to get it right on the door, and he manages to do so just at the finish line.
Yeah, just across it there. We'll take another look here on the replay. Russell Jones again out front in that 890 Supra. Victor giving chase in that RX-7. Good initiation. Big angle there in outside zone 1. It settles in nicely. Is Russell out front for outside zone 2, but allows Victor to really take advantage of it through that big outside zone at the wall, transitioning up the hill now. Very similar, a little touch of that foot brake out front from Russell Jones around that inside clip, and driving down into outside zone 6 now. 7 picking up that throttle, kind of jumping out of the zone just a little bit, but Victor right there with him as they cross that finish line. And we will go to our judges. Victor on the left, Russell Jones on the right. Winner moves on into the last 8, and there it is. Chris, Ed, and Carl, our 3 judges for today, moved left for Victor Lacheris, and he'll move one step closer to making it into the top 32.
Sure will, but I guess we'll have to wait for the Olivier battle to see who will go up against Victor Lacheris in that top half of the bracket. So we have Christian Petrov in the lead lane in his S15. Beside him, another S chassis of Brandon Williams. Both seasoned veterans here in the Virtual Drift Championship, now battling out. Only one can advance on. The lights go on and off they go. Initiating in. Good initiation from Christian. Brandon falling a little bit behind on the transition into outer zone 2. Christian doing a good job to keep that car where it should be. Now Brandon starting to close that gap and get right on the door of Christian Petrov as they come into that inside clip. Through outer zone 5 down into 6. Christian doing a good job out front, but Brandon not giving him any breathing room. A little bobble from the chase there coming into the final outer zone. But Brandon all over him that whole run.
Yeah, Brandon dealing with a couple of things out in front of him very well. As we take another look here on the replay, Christian out front initiating in. We see He has a little bit of lag behind his connection and quite the gap established early, but Braden reeling him in by the end of outside zone 2 and then making a dive there for 3 and up the hill for 4. And then here we see from Christian out front, you see him pull out of the angle and then have to really dial in the angle for that next outside zone. Kind of slows him up a little bit and then into the last and final outside zone. But Braden, again, in that chase position, staying with him through that angle correction of the big sweeper.
Well, back around at the start line. They're flipped around and ready for the second half of their battle. And Williams now out front. Christian Petrov ready to chase him down, initiates in. Looking good off the initiation. A big gap there from Braden out front, but quickly closing the door was Christian Petrov. Almost like he was asleep at the line there when they first started the run. But now, Christian getting all aggressive on that transition, really trying to put it on the door of Braden Williams as they come through the second to last outer zone. One last transition to go. Christian leaving a lot of room into that final one, but look at how fast he came into the side of Braden Williams. But Braden did a great job to not lose control and go into that wall.
Yeah, really came cooking into that last and final outside zone as we take another look at it. Braden getting off to a head start, maybe a little bit of late initiation as he gets up in outside zone 1, maybe a little bit late, but gets into 2 nicely, and Christian's right back into the fight, coming up the hill, sacrificing a little bit of line there, then making the transition, maybe even a little bit of contact there. We see Braden drop a little bit of tire in outside zone 5, 6, nicely done, really throws it at the last and final zone, and there we see Christian just reeling him in super quick and get into the side of that S15. We will go to our judges here for these two. Christian Petrov on the left, Braden Williams on the right. Winner again moves one step closer to that top 32 main event later today. We have one more time there from Chris. Ed moves to the right for Braden Williams. Carl goes left for Christian Petrov. So we will line them back up after a split decision for one more time.
And you know, after kind of watching that battle, I was sitting here going, I think we're going to get a one more time out of this. Give them a chance to clean up both of their runs and let's see it again. So I'm actually kind of happy that that was the decision. Plus, it means we get more battles. Who doesn't love that? Christian Petrov back in the lead lane for this one more time battle. Braden Williams ready to chase him down. Only one advance is on. Yet for the other one, your day is done and you wait for the next one. The lights go on and off they go. Out straight, initiating in. Braden a little closer this time off of the initiation. Lots of angle thrown by Christian Petrov. He gets tagged by the chase of Braden Williams. Could that have been him losing too much speed though into outer zone 2? They regain that speed through outer zone 3 and 4. And now Braden Williams really closing that door, trying to keep it into the side of Christian Petrov's S15. As they transition for the last time into the final outer zone. See a big surge there from Braden Williams in the rear, but he backs out of it to make sure he doesn't do the same mistake that Christian did on the last run.
Yeah, for sure. We'll take another look here on the replay of the one more time here. Christian Petrov out front, initiating in. Here we go. There's that big, yeah, maybe even a little bit of lag. It's very interesting. That car from Braden Williams just sort of jumps forward into that front right wheel of Christian Petrov as they work their way around that inside clip. Now, a couple of bobbles here and there. Christian a little bit too far on the inside of that reference point. There they go. Transitioning across, filling the last and final outside zone. And we'll flip them around for the second half of their battle.
Well, here we go with the second half. Brandon Williams out front, initiating in. Christian Petrov ready to chase him down. Really going up to the side of him through outer zone 2, trying to just keep surging right up to the door, then backing off and surging up to the door. They go through outer zone 3, now through that inside clip. Christian keeping good proximity towards Brandon Williams, almost mirroring the last one. Now this is where the contact happened last time around, but no, Christian Petrov keeps it right on the door this time. This could be anyone's battle now.
Joe, we could have another one more time. Let's take another look. Brandon Williams out front in that white S15 being chased down by Christian Petrov. We see Brandon really not feel outside zone 1. A very interesting and honestly weird initiation from him, and then fixes it into outside zone 2. Really kind of pulls away going up the hill through that first or second transition of the course around that inside clip. Dials a little bit at the angle, adds a little bit there before outside zone 6, and now into the last and final one where we see that big surge again, but we also see Brandon Williams kind of drop quite a bit of speed coming into that last and final outside zone. So we'll go to our judges once more between these two. Again, one more time battle from them. Christian Petrov on the left, Brandon Williams on the right. And there it is. So this time, a unanimous decision. Christian Petrov gets the win, and he'll move on into the last 8 from a very scrappy battle between these two. So he'll move again one step closer to top 32 main event later on today, where he'll have to face off against the winner of Mustafa Amine and Alexander Yegard before moving on into the top 32.
Wait for our next battle to come. We're kind of playing it by ear right now to see which ones come. I'm pretty sure it'll be Mustafa and Alexander, but you never know. Like it's going to be them.
Yeah, it looks like we're still missing Samuel Cuddy from the server, so hopefully he can make his way on into the server for his last 16 battle.
Yeah, hopefully. Now we have Mustafa Amine and Alexander Yegard at the line, ready to go for their battle. Mustafa Amine will lead things out. Alexander Yegard right there beside him as they initiate through outer zone 1. Make the transition to outer zone 2. Lots of angle thrown by the lead, slowing him down just a little bit, but good reaction from the chase to adjust and stick right on that door of Mustafa, leaving no room for those transitions. And anytime there's a gap, well, Alexander quickly closes that door, keeping it, that BMW pinned to the side of that Z as they make the final transition into outer zone 8. A little tap from the chase driver, but not enough to upset anything. What a first battle.
Yeah, let's take a look back on this replay here with Mustafa out front, Alexander giving chase. Mustafa not quite filling outside zone 1, but nicely done as he settles in to outside zone 2 along that wall. Alexander Yegard right there along that bumper through that second transition of the course. That one as well for outside zone 4 around that inside clip, and now back down the hill. Mustafa a little bit on the inside of that big sweeper, and once more Alexander right on the bumper of that Z out in front of him, and there they go across that finish line for the first half of their last 16 battle.
Well, how about the second half of their last 16 battle? Now with Alexander Yegard out front, Mustafa Amine chasing him down. Initiating in a lot more speed for Alexander off the initiation, but Mustafa quickly adapting and getting onto the door, at least within that proximity of Alexander Yegard out front. They make the transition through outer zone 3. Dropping a little tire was our lead driver. in the chase there, bobbling away in the back through that inside clip as he tries to keep it glued to the door of Alexander Jaeger. They make the final transition into that final outer zone. Mustafa slowly reeling him in, gets on the door, and they cross that line.
Yeah, nicely done. Here, let's take another look. Alexander Jaeger initiating in, filling outside zone 1. Nicely done for 2. Nice and snappy on that transition. Mustafa trying to reel him in, but kind of holding his space there. But right on the bumper through that transition. Coming up the hill, quite the bobbles from Mustafa. Just couldn't quite get that car settled in around that inside clip, but does so in the later half of that big sweeper. Now going after another dive on Alexander Jaeger as they work their way through that final outside zone across that finish line. And we go to our judges. Mustafa on the left, Alexander Jaeger on the right. And there it is, a unanimous decision. Alexander Jaeger getting the win over his teammate Mustafa Amane, and he'll move on into the last 8.
Sure will. Moving on up against Christian Petrov, as now we have one battle left. Olivier coming to the line. No Samuel Cuddy in the server. And looks like he's going to get the light. He's got to do his run. So Olivier moving on to the last 8 up against Victor Lacheris. One step closer to getting into the main battles later today. Watch Olivier, a fellow Canadian, rip up the track here at Silverstone. Nice and smooth throttle inputs. Flicks the car into the final one. Please keep it out of the wall. Don't ruin this. There you go, Olivier. Finishing it out strong. We'll see you over in the last 8.
Yeah, nicely done on that run. And we'll pull up our bracket. That is going to be the left-hand side of the bracket is done and complete. Olivier moves on. Victor Lacheris will also move on. They'll face each other in that last 8. Christian Petrov and Alexander Jaeger also both getting the win, and they'll face each other for moving on into that top 32. But up next, Victor Alves and Nick Novak, Braden Swan and Cameron Mustard, Daryl Diaz and Quain Ebanks, Heroa Manoa and Jordan El Nasser. Up next for our last 16 qualifying battles. Again, these drivers are fighting for those last 4 positions left in the top 32. Last call from those judges. Drivers heading back to their pit areas. And then we'll bring Victor Alves and Nick Novak to the line. 30th qualifier versus 43rd qualifier.
Well, and to the line they come. Victor Alves in the lead position. Nick Novak in the chase lane, ready to chase him down. Lights go on and off they go for this last 16 battle, initiating in, looking good for Victor Alves out front. Oh, wow, Nick Novak on the attack through that transition into outer zone 2. left no room for that transition whatsoever, but then falls off a little bit from the trailing end as he goes into the side of Victor Alves. So he fell off there through outer zone 3 and 4, hits the side of him through the inside clip, and then into the wall goes Nick Novak, spinning out of control. Wow, that was a battle.
Yeah, let's take another look at it here. Victor Alves up front, Nick Novak giving chase, missing his livery somehow. So we see Victor initiate in, filling outside zone 1, settles into outside zone 2 nicely, and Nick doing a good job in that chase position, dropping back for that transition, but maybe a little bit too much, and has to make a dive up that hill, sacrificing some line, and then gives Victor a push there from that chase position around that inside clip, and then again reeling him in a little bit too fast in an area that you need to start be backing off in that chase position. Just again more contact and then contact into that wall, but we'll flip him around. There is still a second half to this battle.
There is indeed, with Nick Novak now in the lead lane. Victor Lacheras chasing him down this run. Hopefully a little bit of a cleaner chase this time around as the light goes on, and off they go. Down the straight, initiating in. Nick Novak looking good off the initiation. Victor staying really far behind there as poor Nick trying to keep control of that E36 through that second outer zone. Really kind of bobbling all over the place. Now Victor's slowly starting to close that door, get right up on him, maybe just playing the safe game and saying, well, I saw we took the chase, maybe I'll just hang back a little bit, avoid any major mistakes. There into the wall again goes Nick Novak and rode it all the way through to that finish. So looks like Victor's gonna be our winner here for this battle.
Yeah, you can see just how much speed he has coming into that last and final zone. But yeah, as you pointed out, Nick getting off to a massive start there. Maybe Victor just being caught napping at the line, but reels him in by the time outside zone 2 is complete, and up the hill they go, filling outside zone 4. Victor now right there with him through the power alley. A little bit of angle drawed out from Nick out front, but then gets back into it for the big sweeper. And there, when he picks up throttle, he just really starts to pick up speed in that last and final outside zone, and it just puts him right on out to that wall. But we will go to our judges here. Victor Alves on the left, Nick Novak on the right. Really wanted to see his livery though. I know he had a new livery, but I'm not sure what happened there. Probably some CSP thing. We'll just blame AC.
Okay, good to know it wasn't just, I thought it was just my end, and I was like, I did the install wrong again.
You and me both, brother. And there it is. All three judges moving left for Victor Alves. He gets the win and again moves one step closer to today's top 32 main event. Turns out it was Chris's fault and he forgot to put Nick's new livery in the update.
Good job, Chris. Well, here we go at the line with our next battle. Braden Swan in that Nissan 370Z up against Cameron Mustard in the R32. The lights go on and off they go. Down the road, initiating in, looking good. Through outer zone 2, Cameron Mustard on the attack, getting up on the door. Braden Swan as they come out of outer zone 2 now for the transition to outer zone 3. Cameron sticking right onto that door through those two quick transitions, and then quickly regaining the proximity as they come out of outer zone 5 down to 6. One last transition to go, one last outer zone for them to navigate. Braden Swan doing a wonderful job out front, but Cameron sticking right with him the whole way through it.
Yeah, doing a good job back there. Let's take another look at it. Braden Swan again out front in that 370. Cameron Mustard giving chase, and Braden off to a good start there, but Cameron closing the door quick as they get to outside zone 2 and really kind of stays with him through that entire zone, right along that bumper through that second transition and up the hill, ending up almost a little bit too wide as Cameron, but he makes it work, reels him back in through the big power alley sweeper down that hill and transitioning across Braden out front, doing a good job with it, sticking it in that outside zone, and there they go across that finish line.
Well, back around at the front, now have Cameron Mustard sitting in the lead position. Braden Swan ready to chase him down. The lights go on, off they go for the second half of this last 16 battle to see who will go up against Victor Alves. They initiate in. Could have been a bit deeper into outer zone 1 there off the initiation for the lead, but Braden Swan quickly takes advantage of it and grabs all the proximity back through outer zone 2. Now through the power alley section as they come out of that hairpin. Braden Swan all over the door of Cameron Mustard, leaving no room on that final transition and really going for the attack here in that chase. A good lead there from Cameron as well. This is really anyone's battle.
Yeah, a tough one to call for these judges. We take another look at the replay. The names on the screen a little bit backwards there, as that's Cameron Mustard out front transitioning into outside zone 2 with Braden Swan in that chase position right along that bumper through that transition up into outside zone 3, up into 4 now, and a little dive from Braden Swan in that chase as they work their way down the hill now through the big sweeper, filling that outside zone as Cameron Mustard, and maybe a little boop on the bumper through that transition into the last and final outside zone, and there they go across that finish line. We go to our judges, Braden Swan on the left, Cameron Mustard on the right. Winner will move on to face Victor Alves for that final position in the top 32 main event later on today. Again, Braden on the left, Cameron on the right. So look at there, another split decision call from these judges, but we're going to get a one more time. So Chris and Ed choosing for a one more time. Carl goes left for Cameron Mustard, but we're going to flip them around once more.
Just waiting for them to come back around from their pits, back to the line. Cameron gets a little bit of heat into those tires before they start their one more time battle. The second one more time battle here in the last 16. Braden Swan now leading once again. Cameron Mustard chasing him down. The lights go on and off they go for the one more time last 16 battle through the first outer zone, down into outer zone 2. Cameron! Whoa, getting into the side of Braden Swan. Braden Swan looked like he slowed down just a little bit too much, or maybe Cameron had too much speed. It's definitely something to see in the replay as they continue through that inside clip and out to outer zone 5. They keep the run alive. Braden Swan with the foot planted to the floor. They make the final transition. Cameron Mustard not giving him any breathing room as they finish out this run. Oh,
yeah, a little bit of contact, but I think it is going to be from Braden Swan out front. We'll take another look here on this replay. Great initiation by both of them. And then here, a little bit too much speed, quite the slowing down, and both of them go into the wall almost identically Cameron does end up getting into the door a little bit of Braden Swan, but I think if any fault is going to be put on it, it's going to be Braden for leading Cameron into that wall. But that's going to be up to those judges as they continue on here on this replay. Again, super clean run other than getting into that wall and that little bit of contact.
That'll definitely be one for the judges to decipher and how they can really make it through and what happened in that situation. I know I'm dying to know. As they're flipped around and ready for the second half, their one more time battle. Cameron Mustard out front. Braden Swan chasing him down. Good initiation. Now into that second outer zone where that contact happened in the last battle, but no contact this time around. Both drivers keeping it nice and clean through outer zone 2. Little bit of dirt kicked up by the chase driver as he surges up to the door of Cameron Mustard, but he's keeping a good proximity, not being too aggressive with it, just staying there in the pocket. They make that final transition into that final outer zone. Braden Swan losing out a little bit there through that final outer zone. Couldn't quite get it into the zone and just fell shy of Cameron that whole outer zone.
Yeah, let's take another look at it here. Cameron again out front, swinging that car through outside zone 1 and nicely done into outside zone 2. Braden reels him in quickly for outside zone 2, stays with him right along the bumper, does kind of drop back just a little bit from Cameron. I think Cameron could have been a little bit deeper at 3 as well, but nicely done around that inside clip. And there they go down the hill. A little bit of truce for him there in that camera as we see Cameron pull out a little bit of angle, but there's that big mistake from Braden Swan there, driving out of the zone just a little bit and leaving it quite the mistake there. We'll go to our judges. Braden Swan on the left, Cameron Mustard on the right. Winner goes on into the last 8. Again, they'll have to face Victor Alves for one of those positions in the top 32. And there it is. Judges moving right for Cameron Mustard. Unanimous decision. He'll face Victor Alves in that last 8. But up next, Daryl Diaz and Quain eBay.
There we go. They've gotten the memo to get off the track. We have more battles to do. Cameron Mustard moving ahead and facing off against Victor Alves in our last 8, but still 2 more battles to go for the last 16. This battle here, Daryl Diaz in the lead up against Quain Ebanks, that R35 in the chase position. They initiate in. Beautiful through outer zone 1. Quain getting all over the door of Daryl Diaz as they come through outer zone 2. Now to make the transition through outer zone 3. No breathing room left from Quain Ebanks in that chase position. He is all over the door of Daryl Diaz, but that doesn't take away from this great lead run that Daryl's doing here, making it just a little bit easier for Quain to keep that big R35 on his door to the finish line.
Now let's take another look at it here again. Daryl Diaz out front, Quain giving chase in that big R32. Daryl initiating in, filling outside zone 1, nice and smooth on his transition and picking up throttle for outside zone 2. But again, Ebanks right there on the door and making a nice smooth dive here up the hill into outside zone 4. Does fall back a little bit after it, but then reels him right back in and stays with Daryl Diaz out in front of him. Nicely done filling that zone. Last and final transition. Again, both very smooth from these drivers, but Quain taking advantage of it in that chase position.
Taking advantage indeed. Can he keep that momentum up here in the lead now as we go to the second half of this battle to see who will fill the first slot in that last 8 final battle? Quain Ebanks initiates in. Daryl Diaz not as close as Quain there off the initiation, but now through outer zone 2, grabs onto that door, doesn't want to move from there. They transition to outer zone 3, now down to outer zone 4. Diaz on the door, giving him a little touch there as they come to that inside clip, but it doesn't upset the lead of Quain Ebanks. They come through the second to last outer zone, make the transition down the hill into that final outer zone, that long wall ride. Daryl Diaz sticking it to him. This is going to be another close one for those judges to call.
And again, this is the last 16 that we are watching right here. Quain Ebanks out front, initiating in just barely on time, filling outside zone 1, and then a small little bobble there coming into outside zone 2, maybe a little bit too much initial angle there, and they're working their way up the hill. Now Daryl Diaz going after a very similar dive, and I think almost making it work a little bit better. He does have a little bit of contact, falls back just a little bit, has to reel him back in, but once more right on the bumper, and then making a big aggressive dive there into the last and final outside zone, and there they go across that finish line. And once more we go to our judges. Daryl Diaz on the left, Quain Ebanks on the right. Look at Hero back in the background, ready to go.
Hero ain't wasting any time. It's like,
No
all right,
time.
let's get it going. There's a show to be had, and I want to be in it.
Again, Kyle, if you want to back it up, we can see that it was Swan first into the wall, especially having that shorter bumper. He kind of is leading the chase car into that outside zone. They hit the wall together, and hitting that wall together, it ended up straightening Cameron Muster's longer car out into the door of Braden Swan. But again, Braden leading him into that wall. I guess that's another note we could point out too. And when you see walls on our tracks, the point isn't for the drivers to bury their wall into but bury their bumper into the wall and through the wall, right where their bumper, we can visually see it on the other side of the wall. Is not what we want. We want bumpers kind of scraping the wall or being, half an inch off of it rather than, again, buried into it. It's also why you might notice that zones along walls are a little bit thicker than some of the other zones to give that car some room to actually be in that zone. It looks like we might have a decision here, and it's going to be split. We're going to have another one more time. Fair call, though. They were definitely looking for things there to make a call, and clearly couldn't. Very clean battle from those two, and we get to see them go at it once more.
Definitely do, and this is just it. This is the level of competition that has become the Virtual Drift Championship, where even the last 16 feels like the final battles. It is absolutely wild, and I'm actually even more excited to see what the top 32 is going to bring us.
I'm kind of scared.
Yeah. I've definitely cleared my calendar for tonight.
One eternity later.
Yes, exactly. But back around at the front, Daryl Diaz now in the lead lane for the second one more time battle. Quain Ebanks chasing him down, initiating in. Quain on the attack, not quite matching the angle off the transition, off the initiation, but gets to it on the transition to outer zone 2. The contact made at the beginning of outer zone 2 might be a deciding factor in this battle. Was Quain going too hard as he keeps it directly on the door of the S15 of Daryl Diaz? They come through the second to last outer zone and transition into that big wall ride. Quain Ebanks giving him no breathing room as they finish side by side across the line.
Yeah, here we go again between these two. Daryl Diaz out front here on the replay of the one more time battle. And Quain really taking a risk there and then taking too much risk in the outside zone. Judges will definitely look at it and make sure that Daryl Diaz's decel in the outside zone 2 is okay and not too much. But it looked pretty clean as Quain got into him. But after that, I mean, it's a repeat run of what we just watched between them. Work their way through the last and final zone. There they go, finishing out the first half of their one more time battle.
Now for the second half of the second one more time battle. Quain Ebanks now out front in that R35, being chased down by the S15 of Daryl Diaz, initiating in, looking good. Both of them side by side as they leave a bit of breathing room to come up through that outer zone number 2. Nice job by Daryl Diaz in that chase position, just slowly reeling him in through that second outer zone, but now being glued to the door of Quain and not moving an inch. Gonna have to give up some room for the transition, but he says, okay, and then immediately gets back on the door of Quain, gives him a little tap there to say, hey, I'm right here, and they finish out side by side.
Yeah, they certainly do. Let's take another look. Quain out front this time, initiating in. Nicely done for outside 1. Daryl Diaz playing it maybe a little safe in the beginning part of outside zone 2, but reeling him in, and right there along the bumper through that transition, drops back a little bit for outside zone 4, but then quickly reels him in around that inside clip and stays with him through this big sweeping power alley, filling that outside zone. And another big dive from Daryl Diaz, really taking the risk there, and it pays off right along the door, giving him a little nudges across that finish line. We'll go to our judges once more between these two. Daryl Diaz on the left, Quain Ebanks on the right. Yeah, there it is. Quick, unanimous decision. Daryl Diaz getting the win over Quain Ebanks, and he'll move on into the last 8, where he'll face the winner between Heroa Manoa and Jordan El Nasser up next.
Absolutely wild battle, and there's still a bunch more to come. But now we move to the last battle of the last 16 before we move into the last 8, decide who will grab those final 4 spots for the top 32 later today. Heroa Manoa in the lead lane in that beautiful GT86. Beside them in the chase, Jordan El Nasser at E36. Who will win and move on to see Daryl Diaz in that last 8? The lights turn on, and off they go. Heroa out front, Jordan chasing through the initiation through outer zone 1. Good transition to outer zone 2. Jordan getting a little out of shape, maybe lost in the smoke a little bit through the transition to outer zone 2. They make it up to outer zone 3, now to outer zone 4. Manoa doing a good job out front here, but now Jordan's starting to regain his composure, getting it on the door of Manoa's transitions for the final outer zone. He's just dancing with that throttle, trying to keep it there, but Manoa doing everything perfect out front.
Let's take another look at it here on the replay. Heroa out front, initiating in almost a little bit too late. Gets to the outside almost after outside zone 1, but gets into 2 nicely with a small little bobble. But we see Jordan in that chase position really lack of quite a bit of proximity heading into outside zone 2, and it kind of remains up until there, where Heroa makes a small correction right after that inside clip, but then continues on. Quite the smooth run. Jordan making a dive there into Heroa Manoa out front, and there they go across the finish line for the first half of their battle. We'll flip them around.
Back at the start line, flipped around indeed. Jordan El Nasser now in the lead lane. Heroa Manoa ready to chase him down. Only one can advance on. The lights go on and off they go for the second half of this battle down the straight, trying to find the traction as Jordan. They initiate in. Manoa a little further behind as he leaves quite a bit of room for that first transition to make sure nothing happens. but Jordan actually doing very good into that second outer zone, holding a good lead line here. Minowa just keeping it back a lot, just not being too aggressive in that chase position, and hopefully that doesn't hurt him as they come through the second to last outer zone. Now into the final outer zone. Jordan dropping a bit of tire, and oh no, into the wall. Probably the best run Jordan's done all day, and right at the end, it goes out window.
Yeah, let's take another look at it. Jordan out front, initiating in, great initiation, filling outside zone 1, and does a nice job here in the outside zone 2 as well. Good speed into it, picks up throttle early, and really holds off Heroa in that chase position almost all the way through this run. Heroa right there through that inside clip, but there they go through that power alley, and Jordan kind of pulling away a little bit. Big transition across. Jordan does drop a bit of tire, which might be what led to him getting it into the wall, but does unfortunately kind of shut that run down as Jordan got into the wall and got out of angle and kind of drove around to the start line. But we'll wait on our judges. Heroa on the left, Jordan on the right. And there it is, unanimous decision. Heroa gets the win over Jordan El Nasser, and one step closer to that top 32. He's got to face Daryl Diaz, and if he gets the win, he'll move on to the top 32. But that's going to do it for our last 16, and our last 8 is up next. Olivia Blias and Victor Lacheras, Christian Petrov and Alexander Yegard, Victor Alves and Cameron Mustard, Daryl Diaz and Heroa Minoa all up next. We'll get a little bit of practice runs in, and we'll take a look at our bracket and see how it's played out. Drivers at the line ready to go, and it's going to be Olivier Blias and Victor Lacheras starting things out here for our last 8 battles. Again, winner moves on into the top 32.
Let's see who's the first one to advance on. Olivier Blias out front, being chased down by Victor Lacheras. They initiate in, good initiation. Victor trying to get right up on the door nice and early through outer zone 2. Olivier keeping a good angle through outer zone 2 as they leave and transition to outer zone 3. Transitioning again through outer zone 4. Victor keeping a good proximity through all of this. Dropping a bit of tire was the lead of Olivier as they come through the second to last outer zone. Victor doing a great job just keeping that pressure on and keeping it right there as a big slowdown from the lead. Victor really had to back out of it to avoid contact. So we'll see what the judges think about that in their final decision.
Yeah, it was quite the slowdown there into that last and final outside zone. We'll take another look here. Olivier out front, good transition across into outside zone 2, and Victor making the dive there in that chase position and holding it all the way through that outside zone 2. Drops back a little bit up the hill and trying to reel him in for the inside clip, and just can't quite get there until there, the reference point. Filling that outside zone. Here's that transition across, and then yeah, quite the slow. We see those front wheels lock up from Olivier Blias out front as well, really kind of slowing that chase down.
Well, now for the second half of the battle. Victor Lacheras in the lead lane. Olivier Blias ready to chase him down. Battle continues. Initiating in. Olivier a lot closer than Victor off the initiation and through into outer zone 2, getting right up on the door of Lacheras there as they transition over to outer zone 3. Lacheras kicking up some dirt through outer zone 3. They transition through 4, and look at the pressure from Olivier, sticking it right on the door of Victor Lacheras as they transition one last time. But a big gap established there coming into the final outer zone. And that proximity gets lost a little bit by Olivier, so this is anyone's game.
Yeah, let's take another look here. This time Victor out front and kind of slow rolling and then kicking it into that first outside zone, and a good transition across, and Olivier had taken advantage of it and right there with him along the door through outside zone 2. Transitions across bumper to bumper, and Victor maybe just a little bit too deep for outside zone 3, but bang on for 4, and Olivier taking advantage, rubbing the door through that inside clip, following him along through that big sweeper, and then tries to go for the dive, but leaving quite a bit of room left on the table there before crossing that finish line. We'll go to our judges once more here. Olivier on the left, Victor Lacheris on the right. Winner moves on into the top 32. They move right for Victor Lacheris. He'll get the win and move on into the top 32.
Victor Lacheris taking the first of 4 spots available. Well, now to fill one more. The next battle up, Christian Petrov and Alexander Jaeger. Alexander in the chase position, Christian Petrov in the lead. We'll see how this battle gets underway. The lights go on and off we go. Initiating in. Alexander doing good off the initiation, got high up on that rumble strip. It looked like when they transitioned into outer zone 2. Christian doing a good job out front. Alex managing to close that gap from the beginning, and now is on the door of Christian as they come through that inside clip. Push out to outer zone 5. Now down to 6. Christian on a good lead run here. Alexander Jaeger just doing his best, keeping the car right in the pocket, right in proximity. They finish out the run side by side.
Yeah, they sure do. Let's take another look here. Christian Petrov out front. Alexander Jaeger giving the chase. Good transition, nice and smooth from Christian Petrov out front, and a good dive from Alexander Jaeger in that chase position as they work their way up the hill. Now could have been a little deeper in 3 as Christian, but right on that track edge for 4, works his way out to 5 with Alexander Jaeger right in that pocket, sacrificing a little bit of line in that chase position as Christian works his way through this last and final outside zone, and there they go, door to door across that finish line.
Back around and ready for the second half of their battle. Alexander Jaeger now in the lead lane. Christian Petrov ready to chase him down. Down the straight, initiating in. Alexander Jaeger with crazy angle through outer zone 1. He pulls out of it just a little bit as he gets to outer zone 2. Christian kind of gets off track at that point and has to really make quite a few adjustments. It almost doesn't leave enough room for the transition into outer zone 3. Now through the hairpin and out of outer zone 6. Christian's now on the door of Alexander Jaeger, but losing that proximity once more, coming into the final outer zone, but then regains it right near the end. And this is definitely going to be a battle for the judges to decide on.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take another look here. Alexander Jaeger out front. Initiates in, and as you pointed out, a ton of angle there. Does a good job to hold the momentum, but there's quite the abnormal slowdown into outside zone 2. It may be what affects Christian. There we see a bunch of angle from Alexander Jaeger out front. As you pointed out, it does actually kind of look like Christian gets his front bumper maybe hung up in the rear bumper of Alexander Jaeger before heading up that hill. And the way Alexander's doing that last and final transition is insanity, just kind of transitioning across real short decel and then quickly getting back on throttle extremely early and making it work. But we go to our judges. Christian Petrov on the left, Alexander Jaeger on the right. Looks like we got a quick decision, and it is. They are moving right. Chris, Ed, and Carl, all 3 move right for Alexander Jaeger, and we'll see him in the top 32.
Well, 2 out of 4 spots down. That means only 2 remain. This
and
battle will
the 36th qualifier and the 40th qualifier.
Well, that's even more interesting. it doesn't matter. Sometimes, you know, you think you got, oh, I got 32, but that's what we love about these last 16 battles. But here we go. Victor Alves in that lead position. Cameron Mustard chasing him down for the first battle here as they transition into outer zone 2. A big bobble there from the lead as they make that transition. But Cameron Mustard does good to keep that proximity and slowly encroach on the door of Victor Alves. They transition into outer zone 3. Victor kicking up some dirt there as they come through. But look at Cameron getting all over that quarter panel of the S15 of Victor Alves. They make that transition. Lots of angle thrown by Victor there, but slows him down just enough that Cameron's able to get into that pocket and finish out side by side.
Yeah, let's take another look here on this replay. Victor Alves out front in his S15, initiating in, filling outside zone 1 nicely. Cameron Mustard right along the bumper through that first transition. A couple little bobbles there from Victor Alves out front as they transition now up the hill. Cameron trying to reel him back in. We see a little tire drop from Victor Alves out front. Small angle correction as well as they work their way through that power alley. But Cameron right there along the bumper through that last and final transition. And there we see maybe Victor getting on throttle maybe a little early. I'm not sure, but he definitely does drive out of that last and final zone.
Well, back around at the front, Cameron now in the lead. Victor ready to chase him down to see who will take one of the 2 remaining spots left. 4 battles later today, initiating in is Cameron Mustard. A huge initiation from Victor, coming from way far back and just carrying all that speed as they come into outer zone 2. Victor trying to close that door, and he manages to do so, especially on these transitions, bumper to bumper transitions. Now he loses a bit of ground coming through that inside clip to outer zone 5, now through 6. Victor's not able to regain any of that proximity. He uses the transition to lunge back up onto the door of Cameron Mustard, but will the damage have already been done?
Yeah, I don't know. We will take another look here on our replay. Cameron Mustard again out front, initiating in nicely. Big dive into outside zone 2 and kind of leaves Victor behind. Victor finally reeling him in towards the latter half of outside zone 2, and nicely done through the transition as well. But Cameron pulling away a little bit up the hill and around that inside clip, filling that next outside zone, and we dialed in on the angle. Could have been a little bit deeper in that zone. A good transition across, and there's the big dive from Victor Alves in that chase position before crossing that finish line. Once more, we go to our judges here. Cameron on the right, Victor Alves on the left, and they are quickly sliding right for Cameron Mustard. Cameron gets the win, moves on into the top 32, and that's another one that is outside of that initial top 32. Cameron Mustard qualifying 38th, and he'll find himself in the top 32.
Always a feel-good moment when you know you had it, but you just made those mistakes in qualifying and you make up for it in the wonderful last 16 battles. But now we go to our final one in the last 8 here. Daryl Diaz in the lead lane, qualified 31st. Heroa Minowa in the chase lane, that GT86, qualified 34th. This is for the last spot of the top 32 to be in the main event. Later on this afternoon, the lights go on and off they go. Daryl Diaz out front, initiates in. Heroa right there with them as they come through outer zone 1. An early transition? That was hard to tell there at first. Who made the late and who made the early transition into outer zone 2? But it worked out for Heroa as he stayed right on the door through all of outer zone 2. They come through outer zone 4 now into 5. Heroa a little bit further behind, but still in the pocket as they come through outer zone 6. One last transition to go. Lots of angle thrown from Daryl Diaz to slow that S15 down, and that allowed Heroa to get right up into the pocket before they finished out the run.
Yeah, let's go back to the replay here with Daryl Diaz out front in his S15. Heroa giving chase. Heroa initiating a little bit late. Yeah, it's a very interesting one in the outside zone too, but Heroa does end up in the pocket, drops back quite a bit for that transition. Now up the hill, filling outside zone 4 around that inside clip. Daryl holding off Heroa a little bit through this run, filling that outside zone. Last and final transition here, and there we see the big time from Heroa. Has to back off a little bit before crossing that finish line, but we'll flip him around for the second half of their battle.
Flipped around indeed. Heroa Minowa now out front. Daryl Diaz chasing him down. This is for the final spot for the main event. Initiating in. Looking good for Heroa out front. He had to slow it down quite a bit. Oh no! Getting into the wall maybe for Heroa, or maybe a big leg spike. I couldn't tell what happened there. That was very interesting. As we come around to outer zone 5. Maybe that was leg on my end. Through outer zone 6 now. Heroa still doing a good job out front. Daryl Diaz not able to really get into that pocket and get up on the door. But we'll see what the judges have to say, or if your replay shows differently than what I saw.
Yeah, let's take, honestly, it kind of looks like he thought he was going to hit the wall and turned in to not hit the wall, but ended up not hitting the wall. Yeah, it's hard to tell because he does end up quite too wide there before actually getting to the wall. So it drops a little tire. We see the dirt, drop some tire there in outside zone 4 with a couple of angle corrections here in the big sweeper. But some of it, yeah, is definitely due to connection. But I think there at outside zone 2, that initial big correction there was maybe, you know, just taking a guess that after dropping the tire, he thought he was going to get into the wall, so kind of turned into it to be ready for it, and just it never happened, and the car over-rotated on him, unfortunately. But we'll go to our judges. Daryl Diaz on the left, Heroa Minowa on the right. Winner moves on into the top 32. And there it is, unanimous decision. All 3 of those judges moving right for Daryl Diaz. Daryl Diaz finds himself in the top 32 after some tough battles here in the last 16, taking down Quain, Ebanks, and Heroa Minowa. That's going to be our only driver that finished or qualified within that top 32 that's going to make it on into the top 32 from our last 16 qualifying battles. We'll take a look at the full bracket here. Victor Lacheris qualifying 36 will move on into the top 32. Cameron Mustard will also find himself into the top 32 after qualifying 38th. Alexander Yegard also making it into the top 32 after qualifying 40th, and Daryl Diaz makes it into the top 32. So how it'll go is Daryl Diaz will move into that 29th position. Victor Lacheris will move into that 30th position. Cameron Mustard will move into the 31st position, and Alexander Yegard will move into that 40th position. So we should have our top 32 bracket ready. Looks like we need a quick refresh of it. I know it has not quite been generated yet. So we'll take a look back at our top 16 bracket. If anyone wants to take some screenshots while it's up, there it is. Again, Victor Lacheris, Cameron Mustard, Alexander Yegard, and Daryl Diaz. So we will shut this stream down, take about an hour break or so, and come right back with our top 32 main event here at round 3, Silverstone 2005 Layout B. Again, turn on those bells, turn on those notifications. We'll schedule the stream, and again, we'll be right back live in, again, about an hour or so. And we'll see everybody then.
got a little